The instrument called a knife is the first tool that has been in his hands since he was born. He was very young when his father gave it to him. He's 10 years old, and his father was a sculptor. He taught him how to use a knife. He taught him how to be a man. And in a moment of work, he decided he was using his incredible intelligence and talent. That day, he finished what he'd been working on for 10 years, a sculpture of his father, and he finally finished this masterpiece. Before he died, his father told him that from now on, he should be more careful. In this world, he is his only son, and now he's asking him to be careful. There are a lot of bad people in this world. He doesn't want him to get hurt, and let him trust no one but the master of the Kang family. But suddenly, a deadly epidemic fell to the village. Not a single living soul left. The master of the Kang family passed away 3 days ago. His father and he are the only survivors. They live in the mountains behind the village. But he decided not to upset his father with the bad news. The father told his son that he was proud of him, and he was the smartest and the most handsome. While working on the sculpture, the guy said that his father had a beautiful smile. He must be happy because his father would be happy too. But suddenly he felt only emptiness inside. And if he left his father here, would he be bored? Luckily, right next to his father was his mother's grave. Though he has creative talent, he's not special at all, and his hands are quick. It won't be long before another masterpiece is born. His mother died when he was 5 years old, so he doesn't remember much about her, but he does remember that she was incredibly beautiful. Toward evening, the guy said he was finally done with both sculptures, but suddenly someone behind him asked if he had made those graves, and that's how he met his bloody master. When he was a kid, his father told him not to talk to strangers. He's not sure if he should talk to this suspicious old man. The old man asked the guy, "Did he really make those graves?" The guy realized that as a child he should respect his elders. As long as he didn't do anything wrong, everything would be fine if he answered politely. The guy put himself proudly and answered him that it was his work. The old man was surprised and asked, "Did he create these sculptures?" The guy was surprised because he didn't think an old man passing by would be so impressed by his art, and he replied that he had created them. The lad wondered, for considering his age, old man, what would he want him to do to make him a sculpture for his grave? The old man asked if he would like to follow him. The boy asked in surprise, why him? What does he mean? Why does he want him to follow him? The old man replied to the guy that if he followed him, he would teach him the best martial arts in the world. The guy asked the old man, "Is he kidding me? What is he talking about, and why should he believe such nonsense?" The old man decided to demonstrate his abilities and told him to watch carefully. The old man pointed his hand into the forest, and after waving a couple times, he released a beam so strong that it destroyed all the trees. The guy couldn't believe that just a passing old man possessed such an incredible martial arts technique, to be honest. The old man asked the boy, how was he? Now did he wish to learn as well? The boy thought it was a martial art of incredible power anyway. He had nowhere to go. And now for the moment he had decided that he wanted to get the most out of this life. The boy held out his hand and said he was in. And at that moment he wanted to do something stupid. So he decided to take a chance. As he began his difficult training, his master sent him into the water to learn everything underwater. And that was the beginning of his bloody fate. After doing a breathing workout, he immediately used the beach shot. The shot was so powerful that it traveled underwater and shot skyward. But Master said that when they first met him, he looked like an acceptable master. But the fact that he would brutally trample his generosity, his good heart, and his future in the mountains is what he learned the day he arrived at the dilapidated shack. But arriving at the house, Guy walked into the room and felt that the place was shabby. Why would a powerful martial artist live in such a place? But he didn't really believe that he was super strong. It was just that the way he blew down all the trees was quite impressive. But something else suddenly came to his mind and he thought, don't strangers in stories like this live in seclusion, practicing discipline? The guy looked at it and said it was fine. The most important thing is school, after all. He's a good-hearted kid, so he shouldn't particularly care about appearance. The boy asked the teacher what he was going to study today. The teacher was very surprised and asked, is he sure he is ready? But they did nothing that day, and it wasn't until the next day that the master told him that he would only show once, so let him watch carefully. The teacher took the vessel and threw rice inside. He said that the grains of rice are strong, but at the same time they are fragile enough to be destroyed very easily. Here you need to proceed carefully and gently, but at the same time thoroughly, using the strength of your fingers. But you don't need to change the water more than 3 times while he's washing his hands. And how well the pot is sealed affects the cooking result, so it will need to be covered with a lid. And when he cooks in the mountains, you can put a stone on the roof. It will let the real flavor of the rice come out. And that's his secret method. The next day, Guru said that absolutely every food has its own characteristics, so one should use different cooking techniques. But although there are versatile techniques, such as pan frying, that can apply to vegetables and meat and tofu, briefly the ingredients are placed in hot oil and briefly fried. And the food is ready when the smell and taste of the dish become unified. When cooking soup, the extract of the ingredients should enter the broth, but at the same time they should not become a homogeneous and lifeless mass. Ingredients need to be handled with care, and that's why in any cooking, the main aspect is his senses. And if he cooks from the heart, the whole world will become his strength. The boy said he understood and asked the master if he was a cook. And will he really study to become the best chef in the world? The master replied that he doesn't see the whole picture, what he's trying to teach him. And that includes lightning hail, thunderstorm flying sword. It's a technique that requires an incredibly skillful yet careful hand. And on top of that, incredible insight is required to use this technique. So cooking trains his stamina and brings his techniques into harmony with the art of cooking. The guy thought that all the words of the wizard sounded like just nonsense, but the name of the technique sounds tempting. The master asked the disciple if he would try it, but the boy at that time was thinking, should he try? And now that he remembers it, it was his last chance to give up and run away. But every time he cooked, he got hit on the head for not cooking properly. After a month, the kid had already learned how to use everything and set the table. The master said that the table looked acceptable today. The guy told the master to forget about cooking and asked how come he was now in charge of setting the table. Doesn't he feel guilty for making his young apprentice plow through while he himself just relaxes all day long? And maybe if the master tries some exercises, he will feel a little younger. And on this day, the master finally showed his true self. A good beating could solve many problems. On this day, he learned that his master could hit very hard if he wanted to. The realization of this fact had a great effect on his personality and upbringing. The master pointed to a pile of firewood and said that he was getting tired of such activities. And now, one of his duties would be to chop wood for cooking. The boy was offended and wondered how that old fart could do such a thing to his tender body. The boy looked around and saw that there wasn't even an axe. He would go and ask nicely, or he might get mad at him again. The boy asked the master, "Where is the axe? Isn't he supposed to chop wood?" But the master replied that he would not need something like that. The guy was surprised and asked, "Then what should he use for chopping? Should he use his fists, just like he did when he was beating his young and tender body?" The master replied that if he didn't want to receive more, let him close his mouth and watch carefully. The master immediately took the knife out of his pocket. He asked the guy if he was surprised. The guy thought that no matter how you looked at it, it was just a cheap knife. But he's trying his best to look cool. The master told the student to watch the movement of his brush. The master immediately ran his knife over the wood and chopped the tree in half. The boy didn't expect such a turn and looked at it with his mouth open. The master asked, "Simple, isn't it? Now let him try it." The boy asked the master, "Does he really believe he can repeat this technique?" The master asked, "Why not? He should be able to do something like this without even exerting any force. It's all about speed. You just have to move the brush instantly." The guy picked up the knife and thought that the most important thing was speed. And the most important thing is to move the brush instantly. But waving his hand over the wood did nothing but leave a small cut in the wood. The master asked the apprentice, "Can't he do something that simple?" "Well, there's nothing you can do about it. This time, along with the brush, let him move his elbow. When he strikes, you should try to make a half-circle motion with the knife." The boy tried again, but again he failed. The master said that it was surprising to him that even with the help of his elbow, he failed. The master accepted everything and told him to try to cut using his shoulder as well. The boy immediately swung the knife in anger and the stump flew away. The master looked at everything and said he still didn't have enough speed. He shouldn't put so much force into cutting the log. Next time, he would only use the brush. The guy realized he didn't screw up because he wasn't trying hard enough. And how dare this old man scoff after making him do something impossible? The boy told the master that he was only 10 years old. Even though he is a genius, his body is still weak. He can't cut a log with that little knife. He needs something big and heavy. Until he is strong enough, could he teach him something else? The master hesitated and asked, "Big and heavy? And if that's what he wants, he'll give it to him. Let him wait here while he finds him something." The master went into the house and started going through everything there. Suddenly he cried out that there he was, and so far he's using an axe. At this time the boy thought, what did this old man find? He saw the master bringing him an axe, and it would be much easier with him. And if he had an axe the whole time, then why the circus with the knife? Is he kidding me? The master asked his apprentice, what was he looking at? But however, it didn't matter anymore. Here was his axe. The boy took the axe in his hands and suddenly collapsed to the ground with it. The guy decided to try the axe for real, but the moment he swung it, he grabbed his shoulder. The guy asked, what kind of axe is that? Why is it so heavy? He almost dislocated his shoulder. The master asked him why he was complaining. It weighs only 70 guns. The boy didn't understand anything and asked what was he talking about. But in his head, he realized that the master had just told him to hold an axe that was heavier than himself. The guy asked, what's the point of this? For example, they figure 70 guns equals 1,120 ryans, which equals 11,200 dons, which equals 112,000 punas, which in turn equals 1,120,000 ryans. The boy asked the master, how could he think that a child like him could lift such a heavy axe? With his delicate and frail body, Master told him to stop pretending to be such a lowlife. At least let him raise the hilt a little. He can do anything. He just needs to put in more effort. And even someone like him can lift that axe if he exerted himself. Let him then stop giving up so quickly. The master said that he was looking that the apprentice's clothes were getting dirty quickly. Apparently it was time to teach him how to do laundry. Either way, he could get rid of one more worry. The foreman brought him to the lake and told him he could do his laundry here. The boy replied that he didn't mind staying here, since it only took 30 minutes to get from home to here. And besides, it's pretty cool in the summer, and apparently hot in the winter. The guy pointed at the basket of clothes and asked, what is this disgusting pile of smelly clothes? The guy thought that maybe he should do all of this by himself, with his delicate hands. The guy picked up one of the items and asked what he thought it was. Had it all been stored since last winter? How long ago was the last time he did laundry? The master looked at him strangely and asked, what of it? Is there any problem with it? The boy was immediately startled and replied that there was no problem. He was just surprised by the amount of clothes. But since he's his apprentice, he can do it for his old master, right? The master gave him one item and told him to just take this. He could use this row. It would be easier with him. Let him get to work now before it was too late. The boy wondered and thought, what is this familiar, terrifying feeling? The guy immediately fell to the ground and said that again, and again his arms. What kind of heavy paddling is that? The master asked him, what do you mean by heavy? Its weight is only 50 guns. It is even lighter than that axe. The boy asked that it was so light that the earth cracked. The guy thought about it and said that it also equals 800,000 ri. That kind of mass is more than enough for him. Does he really need to use it? Besides, this kind of rowing would just tear all his clothes. The master got angry and replied that he had told him to stop pretending to be such a weakling. Of course, if you use the normal method, all the clothes would tear. And so he must possess a method called Yui, which will allow him to give any force a softness. With it, he'll be able to handle the laundry. Besides, it will be a good workout for his shoulders and arms. It's a secret technique that's been passed down in their lightning clan for centuries. It's called the secret of laundry. Does he understand now? But the boy didn't understand anything and asked, what? The master replied that he should just try to learn the technique. The guy asked again, what other technique? The master replied that he had just explained it all to him. Let him just remember what he told him. The boy said to at least have him teach him this Yui method before he left. The master replied that he should finish his laundry before sundown and not forget that he still needed to chop wood and prepare dinner. The guy told the master that he never taught him anything. What should he do? When he turned around, he saw that the master was gone. But the guy remembered everything, and how the master had said that if he failed, only punishment awaited him. The boy was very frightened and didn't expect this. The master at this time lay back in his chair and asked why he was holding it so strangely, and it would break if he kept dragging it like that. The lad was hard up and answered him that such a rowing would not break. Rather, his limbs would break. But arriving home, the guy fell to the ground and asked the master why he was treating him like that. The master replied, telling him to stop roaring at the broken trough. He's not that heavy. So what? What has he been doing all this time? It was almost supper time, and he still hadn't chopped wood. The boy realized at once that he was going to be sick and started to run away slowly. The master walked up to him and grabbing his clothes asked, "What are all these rags?" "Where are all the clothes?" The master was very angry with him and did not even know how to punish him for such an oversight. He immediately told him to speak and not to be silent. The guy replied that just in spite of how hard he tried, no matter how often he brought that tender body to the extreme point. The boy asked the master why it was so hard to use. After all, he had tried his best. And his clothes became like this because the master didn't even teach him the UI technique. Not to mention that damn rowing. The master asked the apprentice, "Does he mean it was all his fault?" The guy immediately realized that it was bad. He had forgotten about the master's anger issues. It was too dangerous to push him like that. The boy said for the master to forgive him. He had almost forgotten. He should despise the sin, but not the sinner, right? After all, the master is human too, so they'd better just blame it all on the paddler. The master laughed and replied that apparently he still had a lot to teach him. After the beating stepped the second lesson. Due to his master's rough upbringing as a child, he could only blindly obey his words. He convinced himself that it was all just part of the training. But the master said that here came the evening of training to increase the sensitivity of the hands. The master asked the boy if he understood now. Let him get started. And he won't forget to use canucks, idle stitches, cross-stitching, stitches, tambour stitching, and all the other methods he taught him to mend all his torn clothes. Sewing up all his clothes will do him good. His hand sensitivity should improve. Doesn't he want to sew? The boy tried to sew, but immediately stuck the needle right into his finger. The boy tried to sew, but immediately stuck the needle right into his finger. It was early morning of outdoor workout for the lower body. The guy had already started running for water to the lake in the morning. Every morning was a training session to sharpen his skills, his senses, and his speed. And he even had to cook. Every morning he practiced, and at lunch he cooked, and in the evening he chopped wood. But at sundown he practiced to sharpen his skill, feeling, and speed. After a week of hard training, Guy couldn't even feel his body and collapsed to the ground on his way to the furnace. The master asked him, not as easily as he would like, and since he was having such a hard time, let him give him a couple of tips. They'd make his life a lot easier. Let lightning spirit, a spiritistic technique to use which the user must be familiar with the inner power, and another spiritistic technique that calls forth the path of the judge spirit. First, he must understand that thunder and lightning do not just appear in the sky. The yin and yang energy from the mountains, rivers, and oceans create thunderclouds. A mixture of little yin and a lot of yang can cause a blinding flash. This is what they call lightning. Let lightning spirit allows the user to summon a lightning spirit with inner strength. The human body was created with the ability to absorb the energy that hovers around them. This energy affects their body from head to toe, though they sometimes do not notice it. The breath should not stop in the nostrils, but should gather and disperse. This will teach him to control the flow of energy. He must subdue the energy with unwavering will, strength, and intelligence. Like all human beings, they instinctively know how to breathe properly. However, most of them live their lives without learning it. He'll tell him a story that will help him understand what he's talking about. Once upon a time, there was a madman who sprayed gas on random passers-by. By instinct, most people covered their noses first, but everyone who did that died. The point is, if he can't control his true breathing, his body will inhale the poison. But if he breaks the mastery of inner strength and learns the path of lightning spirit, he would have nothing to fear. His body will be able to absorb the essence of lightning, giving him a power that would shatter mountains and oceans. And did he now understand why it was so important to know the path of the lightning spirit? The lad had embarked on a difficult meditation and was trying to deal with it. The guy took a breath of air and realized he liked the story, but he still didn't understand what he wanted him to do. Maybe this time, he really should put more effort into it. The boy asked the master what exactly he should do. The master asked him what he meant. All he has to do is to gather the energy, disperse it, and subdue it to his will, using only his inner will, strength, and reason. But to do this, he must use basic breathing techniques while practicing Qigong to open his meridians. Only after discovering the 12 meridians will he learn how to properly control the flow of energy. And he will have to memorize the vast number of arteries and veins that are in the human body, but still he will only explain once. So let him listen carefully. If he asks him to repeat it because he is terrible at repeating, he will think the student is not trying hard enough and will punish him. The guy started yelling that it wasn't fair. How is he supposed to memorize it all by ear? At least have him give him some notes. The master hit him with a stick and told him to keep his voice down. If he really thinks it's unfair, he can write it all down so that he can pass it on to his disciple. And in any case, once it breaks the way of the condemned spirit, memorizing it all won't be a big deal. The guy asked, is it really that easy? Would this technique turn him into a super-duper genius? The master replied that he didn't even know what the technique was. The basis of any control is to systematically control the physical and spiritual self while controlling the mind and heart. The path of the condemned spirit twists his head like a string, maximizing his mental potential. This spiritual thread is virtually indestructible. It is even like a lake in terms of purity, tranquility, and transparency. Having reached it, his body will attain an almost natural immutability. The guy replied something that didn't sound natural. The master hit him again and said that if he wanted to become the best, let him learn to focus. This spiritual technique is important if he wants to move forward. The boy asked the teacher, wondering how he could learn it. The master replied that although someone like him would not agree with such ineffective methods of training, he would teach him the way of the condemned spirit through various outdoor training, strict diet, and other methods. He doesn't need to worry. This technique was developed by the blood, sweat, and tears of the previous generations of the Lightning Clan. The kid got really scared and said he had a bad feeling, and it smells fried. The boy asked, so how could he get through all this? The master replied that he did not agree with such ineffective methods of teaching. He will teach him the way of a convicting spirit through various outdoor exercise, strict diet, and other methods. This technique had been developed by the sweat and blood of the previous generations of the Lightning Clan. The guy immediately thought he had a bad feeling. Here comes body training number 1. It's outdoor training. Master had asked him earlier if he knew when a person could concentrate the most, and it happens when he's distracted for a split second and his head is about ready to fall off his shoulders. Guy understood that the body shape training method utilizes this principle and is designed for outdoor workouts. 1 hour a day, he will at least go to the mountains and collect leaves, mushrooms, fruits, medicinal herbs there. And thanks to such training, he will not only be able to develop sensitivity and add to his knowledge of the mountains, but every time he meets animals there, he will gain an experience that promotes the development of concentration reaction and body quickness. And this place is called Hanapbong because the tree cats who meet wild beasts in the forest used to dye the bushes. And thanks to that, no one had been going there lately, and it had become very quiet and peaceful. So he should not raise his voice there either, but be more careful. Seeing a big bear in front of his nose, Guy got very scared and started to run away, while the bear stood on 2 legs. But the master had been watching him all this time, and at just the right moment, he took his knife and stuck it right into the bear's head. The master immediately took the bear to him and began to carry him. And now came the second training session called the diet. The guy came to his house saying he barely survived. But what is it? The master had already managed to bring the bear home and carve it up. He asked him how what? The master said there was bear soup for lunch today. The boy looked at it and replied with surprise that it didn't seem like it could be called just bear soup. The master asked, what? It's from a bear, that's how you get bear mup. And what's he picking on the soup for? The guy thought for a moment and replied that they were past that, and about him being a jerk, they do have lunch together, but for some reason the menu is very different. The master replied that during training the body and soul should be light. It's obvious. The diet is so elementary. And such fatty and unhealthy food he will eat himself, but he eats healthy and tasty grass. In time he will realize he cares for him. But the guy got angry and turned the table over and started telling the master to stop lying to him. After all, he can eat meat and fish too. The boy realized in his head that at this rate his life would end at the age of 10. The master asked him why he still had not eaten. The boy looked at the empty table and thought, how did the master eat it all so quickly? And meat is not air to disappear like that in one bite. The master replied that he had this look on his face that he was determined to eat everything quickly, that he was picking on the little things again. And now they have to practice, so let him eat soon too. Whoever is last does the dishes, he knows that, right? The guy got angry and said he would have harnessed him to do the dishes anyway. When he came to the training session, the master told him to say hello. This wood-carved child has trained many generations of disciples. He may call him the wooden martyr. The guy asked, "Martyr? This is a joke, right?" The master asked, "Is there something he doesn't like?" The guy replied, "He looks like that. It ruins the whole mood. It's not just the looks, it's this. This is the most annoying." The master said it's a wooden statue made in the shape of a person to learn acupuncture. The whole body is made very naturally. The master asked him if he really wanted to take that rag off. The boy replied that no, they would leave it like that. The master said to learn acupuncture properly, you have to start with 12 meridians and 8 points today. We'll try to learn 12 meridians. Have him memorize how he's going to stab the statue, and then have him repeat the same thing. Can he do it? The boy asked. The meridian is only 12, right? That's too much for normal kids, but he's a genius, but we can try. Master asked with surprise, really? Then let him try to learn it. If he makes a mistake, he will personally give him a punishment. The guy felt like he had a feeling he was walking into a trap. He's wrong, isn't he? The master immediately began to show everything. The master said he would show him all the pressure points on the wooden doll, and it's his job to learn them, and he hopes the boy can do it. The boy replied that if it's called 12 paired meridians, there are only 12 points. Ordinary boys wouldn't have thought of it, but he's special. It's time to start. The master asked him if he was sure. Then let him watch carefully how grievous the error, how heavy the punishment that would follow. The boy was very frightened and thought he was in a big mess, and it seemed so to him. The master said that 12 meridians are located in the human body along the channels of circulation of energy of internal organs. The meridians are connected to the internal organs, and depending on the organ itself, the meridians are divided into yin and yang. And as a general rule, the meridians that are on the outside of the arms and legs are yang, and those on the inside are yin. The meridians on the hands are called sugin, and those on the feet are called jokin. And there is a central one in the heart itself. The meridians on the yang hands consist of the meridians of the large intestine, the meridians of the 3 bags, and the small intestine. The meridians on the feet are yin from the spleen meridians, liver meridians, kidney meridians, and thus 12 paired meridians can be visualized as a set of meridians of the lungs, colon, stomach, and the last, closing the circle, connects with the meridian of the lungs, because of which the circulation of energy qui. And in short, the meridians on the yin hands circulate from the chest to the fingers of the hands. The meridians on the yang hands from the fingers of the hands to the head, they form a single chain. The guy was very surprised and said there's a whole mountain of terms, and he wants him to understand it all the first time without repeating it. He doesn't even have the knowledge. And not only that, but he was gibbering like Tina Kandelaki. The master asked, who called himself special, a prodigy? Before you complain, at least let him try. The guy replied to just have the master tell him who he should beat. The master said to start with him, let him show on his fist what he had learned. From the lung meridian to the bladder, 1 stroke for each mistake. Does he understand the terms? The guy was really pissed off because he didn't remember anything, and he was going to get screwed by the master for sure. The boy remembered that when he was 5 years old, he had memorized books about 1,000 characters, and he never understood how everything was connected, but he should do it again. And having made up his mind, he said he would just repeat the actions of the sabu. The master told him that the respiratory meridian flows from the chest. Then comes the pericardial meridian, followed by the central meridian, which originates at the heart. The abandoned cavity has the meridian of the large intestine. There's the meridians of the 3 bags. Then there's the meridian of the small intestine. It in turn flows into the spleen meridian. And now here comes the liver meridian. Then the kidneys. And from the stomach, another meridian corresponding to it. But lastly, the gallbladder meridian. And finally, the bladder. And they all form a vicious circle, right? The master thought about it and said that he seemed to be a good teacher. He was still learning, of course, but there was still a little hope. Sue asked the master why he was saying that. He had just seen with his own eyes how very surprised he was. Is it so hard to just praise? The teacher replied that he was actually surprised at the number of extra moves he made, and he thought he had passed the test with flying colors. Then have him show the lung meridian on himself. Su was greatly surprised and asked, "On his body?" Su started pointing to his points and asked the teacher, "Like this, right?" But the teacher replied that he was correct, waiting for the punishment. Although the 12 meridians are so named, there are actually many more. The pulmonary meridian alone consists of 11 channels of both arms. The teacher took everything in his hands and said, "Here are the impact points: Junbu, Unmun, Chenbu, Hebek, Chektek." The teacher explained everything thoroughly and asked, "How about this?" But Sue became overly excited, thinking it was just a wonderful body massage. Sue thought that his back and shoulder had been aching lately, and heartburn had noticed. But now everything was fine. Master said that judging by his facial expression, he liked it. Let him try to memorize with his body it was the meridian of the lungs. Sue got angry and asked, "Couldn't you start with this example?" The master asked him, did he want to be shown all the points at once? Is he sure? But he doesn't accept objections on such a matter. Sue thought for a moment and replied that he had overreacted, and he thinks the current teaching option is good too. The master heard this and said that he was a smart guy. When studying the circulation of blood flow, you can't practice lethal and paralyzing points, although it's a pity. And it's all about the potential lethality. And since he's so chatty, maybe he can show him the tongue points. Sue said for him to stop joking around like that. It's time to start their class already. Right there, is he showing correctly on the wooden puppet? The master replied, that's right. They agreed on punishment for mistakes, right? The teacher calculated and said that on the wooden puppet, he had shown 309 points of influence on each side, making a total of 618. He was only able to repeat 43 on the left and right side correctly, making a total of 86. So that makes it 532 strikes? Sue replied that it can't be that. How can he even count? It's 12 meridians, so there must be no more than 12 beats. The master started laughing and asked, why did he think it was called the teaching of body structure? At each stroke, he would show which points he had shown wrong. Let his body memorize them. Sue was very frightened and running away started to say that he would die after these blows. The master was surprised by this and asked where he was running to. Sue accepted everything and started practicing even harder, but master liked it a lot and even helped him. After 4 months, Sue had improved his training qualities and even learned a lot from his master. As he was practicing, the master approached the disciple and asked, is he still not finished? And when is he going to cook, chop wood, do laundry, and clean up? Sue asked the foreman, hadn't he noticed? Here's his food, firewood, there's drying, cleaning, and that's it? He will go then. He still has to learn Naranzimbab and Nensasimjal. The master replied that he had only learned the basics, but was acting like a know-it-all. If anyone heard him, he would have thought that he was his servant and not his disciple. Sue asked, isn't he? The master told him to take his time, or he would make people laugh. He was not yet ready to learn martial techniques, but since he thinks he's ready, they can try something. And starting today, he's going to learn this instrument. The master said that wielding the Sword of Thunder is like playing in an orchestra. Playing the kayagama involves exquisite finger technique and exceptional concentration. And especially on this nigam, it is believed that not everyone can master it. Playing an instrument involves not only technique, but also something else, something special. This is nothing that will help him wield the Sword of Thunderstrike in the future. If he learns to play this instrument, he's halfway done, and he can quickly learn to wield the blade. Sue was surprised to say that before, he wouldn't even let him wipe the dust off this instrument, and now he would finally learn to play it. He was already imagining girls saying he was handsome, and his face under the moonlight especially shining, and his wistful look won him over. His sad melody cut her soul. But one of the girls waited for another and said he was his prince. Sue said, that's great. All the more reason for a warrior to wield not only a sword, but also a musical instrument. The master asked him if he was sick. He didn't tell him that there was a part of his plan to learn a musical instrument. He's still a little kid, but he already likes to show off. This Nagim is a priceless treasure of their school. He's honored to learn to play it. Sue looked at the instrument and saw that it was beautiful. But the master realized that he would first have to teach him how to play the kayagim, and then he would have to proceed from there. Sue decided to try it and hear what it sounded like. But the master saw it and shouted at him not to touch it. Sue didn't even have time to touch the string before his finger was cut. Master said he told him to. and asked him not to touch everything. How many times do I have to tell him? He should thank God, or he could have lost a finger. The master said that this tool is made of a special thread material that controls thunder. It cuts anything that touches it. You have to know the special technique. Su said that the master told him that he would teach him how to play this instrument. He thought it was okay to touch it from today. He didn't say he was so dangerous. How is it even possible to learn on one of these? Does he want him to lose a finger? The master replied that he was a wooden head. The great Sabu will play a melody for him personally. He asked him to listen to it with reverent feeling. Su felt that awe-inspiring feeling. A wooden head, and he would now wait for the master and grow old. When he no longer had the strength to beat him, he would laugh at him. The master began to play the instrument, and everything around suddenly froze. After all, this music was simply pouring out a man's soul. Master finished and said, "What a face Su has. How can he play the great Sabu's negim? That's the power of bunreisu." Is he surprised? Bunreisu is not a fighting technique. It's more of a skill. There are no rules. But if you learn it, your palms will become so strong that neither thread nor sword can hurt them. And if practiced, not only the palm, but also the hands can also become stronger. In controlling the sword, the main ingredient is the thread that controls the thunder. And so it is necessary to master bunreisu, reaching at least level 6 and learn to play kayagim well, or his hands will be cut in half. Did he understand? Su asked. Then would he need to start learning bunreisu first? How long would it take him to reach the 6th level? The master answered him that one must study it with patience, and to him he thought it would take 10 years to master it. Su asked with surprise, how much? Then would they leave him behind when he was going to learn Narensimbab? He had said he would teach him how to play the nagim. The master laughed and asked, who told him he wouldn't teach him? He simply said that it was too early for someone like him to play the kayagim. He had 100 years to live, especially since he doesn't even know the notes, and he's already whining that he doesn't teach him how to play the nagim. Let him learn to play something easier first. And he still thinks he's more or less ready for martial arts. Starting tomorrow, they'll start learning the basics. Su asked with surprise, starting tomorrow? They would be learning the basics? Then what was he studying before that? The master replied that it was all necessary to eliminate the sore muscles and prepare his body for study. And he doesn't know why Su asked him. In his mind, it's clear enough. And tomorrow, after he finishes all the chores, have him come to the backyard. Su went outside and thought that Sabu technique, this is a martial art class for sure? And is it all true like that? The master asked, why would he want to trick him? Knife throwing is the main foundation in their school's martial arts. And now it's time to stop talking and let him try to hit those cones. And they're going to start with this tree. And since this is the first lesson, let him try to hit from 15 meters. And in order to succeed, let him not rely on strength alone. It is necessary to use Yen Sasimgel and let him visualize the vector between the knife and his target. With Narensim's help, let her control her breath and body energy. And finally, you will need to throw the knife right along that invisible line as hard as you can. Su immediately threw the knife and thought he had hit it, but the knife didn't get stuck in the lump and immediately fell to the ground. Su started to get angry and said that he missed. The master replied that he had to hit the target accurately from this distance to advance to the next level. And he thinks that if he shows his effort and diligence, in a month of 4, he'll make it. Then he'll have to increase the distance, and he'll have to practice until he hits at least half the time. And before that, there is no need to disturb the master. Did he understand everything? Su asked with surprise. Master is leaving? Could it still be delicate for him to try teaching? The master replied that he had already told him everything he needed to know. Why should he stay here? He would have to train for at least 2 months to reach level 3. Su said he heard everything. He doesn't want to teach him? And master thinks he's left him alone? Su said he's only going to get in so he can have a good life. It's as simple as that. Su immediately threw the knife with the speed of the wind. After a month, he started hitting from a distance of 15 meters. Then after another 3 months, Su started screaming that he had finally hit it. While at that time, the master was lying at home drinking. Su came home and said he was hooked. The master looked and replied that it was only in 6 months. And the speed is such that you can only see it once in 100 years. Su started to get indignant and showed a disgruntled face. Master said he is whining again. Even in the songs, there is a grandfather teacher does not give gifts to those who whine. Does he remember that? Su replied that he had never heard such an outrage. So would the master give him a gift? Master replied that yes, he would. He said it was his birthday the day after tomorrow, and he was going to visit his father at the cemetery, right? And he's also making progress in his studies. So he has a gift for him. Sue replied that it's not like a master. He hopes he's not sick with something serious. Master punched him and told him he was an asshole, so he didn't need his gift. Sue replied that he doesn't need it. He really does. The master told him to straighten both his arms. He immediately put a bracelet on each of his limbs. Sue was surprised and asked, "What is this?" The master replied that it is called a muhuan. They are bracelets for the hands and feet, which are now in trend among the youth. It's a trend among young people. Sue said that beauty and exercise, 2 in 1. No way, these are just heavy shackles. The master replied to the disciple to stop deceiving him. And he thinks his master is lying? All in all, one muhuan weighs only 20 gun. It is much lighter than a wooden wash stick or an axe. So no need to whine and let him carry it always. And in training, and in the toilet, and in the bathroom, and at night never let him take it off. Did he understand? Sue said 2 arms, 2 legs, 48 kilograms total. To call that light, that's a total lie. The master said that when he went to the cemetery to visit his parents, they would keep him company. And don't let him take them off without permission. The master thought about it and decided it was time to start a new knife throwing class. So far, he had been aiming at standing targets, but now he would try to hit moving targets. And first you have to try it from a distance of 15 meters. Sue asked the master, then could he take the muhuan off him? And how will he get in with it on his hands? The master replied that his only apprentice would soon be without arms. He does not, never had weak whining disciples. He has studied Yen Sasngol and Narensim Bob. Then what is preventing him from doing the simplest task? Sue replied that it was because he lacked diligence. Sue said he had to hit it, but he didn't even come close. Let him try again. And again, Sue misses. The master thought about it and said he felt like he would have to start from scratch. But though no, Sue replied that there seemed to be a problem with this way of training. The master said it was right. He had the right idea. While he's practicing, it's not like he can just stand there and shake that lump all the time. The master thought seriously and said that it would still be better if he shook it himself and then threw the knife from a great distance. And he feels like he's going to have to learn the phoenix move. The phoenix move is a movement technique. It involves the body moving like a bird of fire. The reception series includes Gengen, Sinbob, and Bobobgen movements, involve the body moving fast, long, and as far as possible with the ease of a feather. Shinbob is similar to Gengen, but the teachings say that Shinbob is a technique that allows you to control the weight, positioning, and shape of your body. That is, this technique allows you to strengthen your body like iron or to spin in the air. Sometimes people use Chukulgon, which is a kind of Shinbob and allows you to reduce the size of a person's body. But this technique often has side effects, so he won't teach it. And finally, Bobob. This technique allows you to move your arms and legs very quickly like a ghost when fighting an opponent. And of course, this does not mean that only the legs move. Foot movements involve working the muscles of the whole body, so it is more correct to say that this technique allows you to accelerate the whole body. Sue said it certainly sounds tempting, and so he would be learning these techniques in shackles? The master replied that absolutely, but since everything is clear, then they will begin stilpenen, which is the basis of the phoenix reception. He'll need this technique on the way to the cemetery if he wants his back to stay intact. Let him watch carefully. A little later, the master looked at Sue and asked, "What is this pose?" Here's a chapelak for him and have him wake up immediately. And if he doesn't learn, the master will beat him all night long. Sue immediately ran to his parents' cemetery and placed flowers. But master did not leave him alone and watched him every time. The master thought during training why he was shouting so much when he was running. He was wasting energy. Though to summarize, he's learned a lot in half a month, and he feels like the time is right. The master said to shake that lump himself now and practice throwing knives. As long as he doesn't hit it from 30 meters away, don't call him. Sue said that master was too lenient. But at this time, master was sitting at home eating and drinking all the time. But suddenly Sue came in and said that he could now hit a moving target from a distance of 30 meters. But really, Sue was annoyed by everything. He heard everything. Of course he knows he's sloppy, but how can you drink sake with a long stick? Isn't it hard to take the bottle in your hands? The master told him to stop chirping in his ears immediately. Tell him to take this and go and study. The master gave him a stick and told him to try to hit the target with this stick. And instead of a cone, he should hang this one, left-right. Sue asked, is he really that annoyed to be taught something? Why would he want to train with that stick? Does he think he'll ever fight with that stuff? What a waste of time. The master asked why he thought he wouldn't fight without a blade puppy. For a true master, even a bird feather is a weapon. Suddenly, a bird flew by and the master said, here's the target. Let him watch carefully and learn. The master immediately threw the stick at the bird and it hit the target, and the bird died instantly with one blow. Sue was greatly surprised by such a thing. The master thought and said that he hoped that he had killed him, that the wand could also become a terrible tool. The master said that when he learned how to hit a coin with his wand and would practice hitting his quill. Did he understand? Here came the cold season of the season called winter, but the master was not afraid of it and was always ready. But suddenly he felt someone approaching him. When he turned around, he immediately saw a tiger. The tiger was very hungry and was ready to eat everything in its path. But the master was not afraid and was ready to fight. The master grabbed the tiger and started beating her on her back with a stick, saying she was a bad cat. And he told him not to jump on it, it was too heavy. The master immediately smacked him upside the head and said she'd been missing for over a year. He even thought she was dead. And suddenly she shows up and jumps into the fire. The master said she decided to say hello, but he doesn't need his greeting, for she annoys him. But the tigress was too cute and twisted around in front of the master as best she could. The master asked her why she was showing her belly. Did she give birth to tiger cubs? Master said he understood. She might not pretend to be so nice. Does she think he'll share sake with her? Master said if she wanted a drink, let her sit still and not touch anything while he was gone. Tigress stood in front of the fire and looked only at the food. But suddenly Sue came and was very frightened when he saw the animal. Sue started shouting that the tiger had killed the teacher, covered his corpse with a blanket, and was now sitting quietly and basking by the fire. Sue saw the look in her eyes and said that it couldn't be. There's no trace of blood, and Master's not a weakling either, is he? Sue was already thinking of throwing that feather in his eyes and running away. He started shouting that he would avenge the Master's death when he was older. But Master saw such a thing and immediately threw a stone at the tiger, saying he told her not to touch anything. Sue was very happy because the Master was alive. The Master asked the guy that he was talking nonsense and not blushing. Master asked, and how else to understand that he would avenge Master's death sometime later? Sue asked, how could he get back at her if she defeated him too? You have to master the skill first. And he asked, why is there a tiger at home, as if that's the norm? And what corpse is still under the blanket? The Master answered that under the blanket is his wooden doll, and he has known her for a long time, before he met him, and her name is Belenka. Sue asked, what do you mean have known each other for a long time? Since when did the tiger become related to the neighbors? And what a stupid name. Suddenly Sue said that the tiger was coming to eat the Master. But the Master asked the disciple why he thought that was what he wanted. Sue decided to walk away from the conversation. Suddenly the Master said that the guy is strange, and why is he by the way something early? Let him go and train, and he'll tell him right away just in case. The meat he's roasting now is lamb to be eaten with warm sake. It's good for the elderly, so don't let him think of claiming it. Sue said that if he wanted to lie, let him at least try to lie more believably, especially since he came because he had completed his assignment. The Master replied that he had told him that when he was done with the wand, let him start throwing the feather at Soyu. Sue suddenly threw a feather and hit right into the food and said that now he could hit anything with a feather too. The Master was surprised and asked him why he had thrown it there. It was food that he had made himself. But Belenka reacted to it very angrily. The Master asked him, how does it look to him? Without the feather, does the food look edible? Let her see, all the dates are intact. Sue asked with surprise, are the dates intact? Is this tiger the father of date palms? Why is he behaving like this? The Master replied that she already did not like her food to be touched. Sue was surprised and asked, does the tigress drink sake? Does the tigress drink sake and eat dates instead of meat? Sue kept walking beside him and thinking he didn't mean it. And she's a tigress. She could have been kinder to him. Sue decided to take a different course of action and said that he was very cold and perhaps he too would warm himself by the fire. The Master asked him what he was doing. Does he want to touch her? Is he going to part with his hands? Tigre immediately started growling after saying that. But Sue asked the master, why did he say that? She wouldn't have noticed. The master asked him, in his eyes a white pet, like a cat or a dog. She's 10 times his age, maybe more. Let him think to himself, if some puppy was stroking the back of his head, would he sit still? Sue asked with surprise, 10 times? This tigress is 110 years old? So maybe he should call her not just white-haired, but anti-white-haired. The master asked him, what kind of nonsense is he talking about? Although many say he looks younger than his years. Sue thought, what does that even mean? Does he mean that he is over 110 years old? Just a little more, and he will call himself a Holy Spirit, but it would be better if he didn't talk. Suddenly the master said that since they had eaten everything, could they go and test his abilities? After all, this time they should see with their own eyes. Sue said they didn't even leave him one sip. They drank it all. The master replied that if he stayed, he would order Belenka to drag him with his teeth. Did he understand everything? Arriving at the forest, the master asked him how he was doing. Let him show him. Sue asked in reply, what do you mean how? Immediately he threw down the feather and said this is how he shook it. And next he used the phoenix technique. And then used a feather attack of concentration, and the moment the target was visible, and taking into account the wind direction and speed, the movement of the target, and immediately throws the pen straight into the target. Master and Belenka were greatly surprised. While Sue said that he had made an accurate hit, Master said that it was strange at all. He can't reach that level so quickly. Sue replied that the master could just be pleased with his student's rapid growth. Is it really that hard? The secret to success is that he is a special boy. Plus, he has the ability to focus on training. The master said he understood and asked him to come here for a moment. Sue asked the master, why? Does he really want to beat him because of jealousy of his talent? But the master told the tiger to fetch him with his sharp teeth. Sue immediately ran to the master and said, here he is. Approached him as he asked. The master replied that the phoenix reception. The master asked him how good he was at bunresu. Sue asked with surprise, bunresu? It was nothing special. Master said to try to hit his arm using bunresu as hard as possible. Sue asked, hitting the master? The master replied that this was correct. No matter how hard he hits, he won't scold him. He makes a promise. Sue asked, why all of a sudden? He's his student. How could he hit him? He can't afford to. But on the other hand, he can't resist his orders. Sue said that the master left him no choice. The master replied that if he did not strike on the count of 3, he would do it himself. Sue thought about that punch for a long time and immediately slapped his palm with all his might. Suddenly, the master said that it was unexpected. The master immediately grabbed his hand and said that he was caught. He asked Sue what he was taking in secret from him. Sue replied that there was nothing and said that he didn't understand the master's words. Master asked if he took nothing, how was he able to reach such a level so quickly? His strength could be felt in his hands. Sue asked the master, what kind of power was he talking about if he was currently sitting in front of him intact? The master replied that his strength was felt when he struck. As he watched how aptly he threw the pen at Soyu, he realized that his skill had already exceeded that level. He's already level 4 in Bunresu, and Naren Simbab is as proficient as his kind can achieve after at least 7 years of training. And then there are his eyes. When one comprehends Naren Simbab too quickly, it is difficult to clearly separate the internal forces in the learning process due to inexperience, and it shows up in the eyes as a side effect. And thus they conclude if he hadn't eaten anything extra, he wouldn't have been able to reach such a high level so quickly. Sue said he's not guilty of anything. He is only to blame for being born a poor prodigy. He practiced hard and finally succeeded, and the master, instead of praising, scolds. Of the 2 of them, they are the only ones who hobble the food without him. The master said he's whining again, and there's no need to make a spectacle of it. Let him get up immediately and follow him. Sue replies that he didn't, and he says he didn't take anything. He sighed, for he had almost blown it. He's so smart, isn't he? On the 22nd, late at night, Sue went to the forest. He said it was such a cold night, and where would he find greenery in the forest? That cold-blooded master. But suddenly he saw mushrooms under a tree and said he would pick them too. But somehow there were very few. But his nose sensed some strange odor, and he stood up thinking, where is this smell coming from? But as he lowered his head, he saw a flower standing there, and he was very much surprised. And how in such a cold weather, and with such a smell, What kind of a flower? No berry, but it must be worth a lot, and thinks the master will be happy with this fruit, even if he only brings it. One must be careful not to damage the roots. He started digging and his hands got very cold. But suddenly a statue appeared in front of him and told him that it was probably the first time he had seen such a rich-looking root. The statue said his name is Ginseng. He can enhance his health for the rest of his life. But people say he looks like a human, so they call him Ginseng Doll. Sue plucked the flower and said, "Great, because this ginseng almost fooled him. It must be one of the three plants that fool people. The best healing herb that is legendary. It must be the ginseng doll." And now his luck has smiled on him. Why don't he go to the market? He might even be able to save up some money to escape, but it's dangerous for young creatures like him to go to the market with such expensive things. And besides, there are more valuable things in life than money, aren't there? That's why he endures all the master's humiliation. Suddenly, Sue said that he had finally decided that he would eat him, and his body would get stronger, and he could become an invincible master faster. But Sue sat down in front of it and thought, how could he eat it? He began to remember what Master had told him before. When Sue came home, he asked the Master what he was eating. Is it not poisonous? The Master asked him, what is he talking about? It is needed. It is very hard to find. Although people like him shouldn't eat such things, it could end badly. So if he sees something like that, always let him carry it to him. Sue asked why? What could happen to him if he ate it? The Master replied that if one took it without following the rules, he might fall into the state of Junweima, or even die. Sue asked, what are the rules? Let him tell him. The Master replied that he could tell him, but it was unlikely that he would remember the first time. So why bother? Sue asked the Master to tell him. The Master said that Rule 1, when taking healing plants, it is mandatory to follow diets until the body has fully mastered the power of these plants. And nothing will happen from not eating and sleeping for a few days. It is necessary that the healing properties and the inner strength of the body reunite into one. Rule 2. Sweet medicines such as Daewon, if they are not fake, can be taken without special instructions. And when taking medicinal plants that have yin or yang properties, they are very different in relation to each other. Sue said that he hoped it didn't apply to his plant. He ate the same greens every day, so ginseng was just right for him. But a special instruction to consult a specialist if side effects occur. But Sue was not deterred and decided to give it a try. Sue immediately felt indescribable feelings, and the inner world of Buryun. Careful, there are different from reality. But ginseng appeared in front of him and asked how he dared to eat it. Does he think he has enough strength to master it? And he would turn him into dust in one flick. Sue was not afraid and went to fight him and immediately grabbed his head. Sue said that it was the best of all the herbs he had eaten. He immediately waved his fingers and said goodbye to him. Sue came to his senses and thought, did he really make it? And the first feelings he felt were that his body was as light as the wind. And that power is now in his veins. It felt like he had eaten 100 bears, but it had already cooled down, and he expected to be in flight for a long time. And now he'll go home and pretend it never happened. But if the Master finds out about it, but will slap him, Sue decided that he wouldn't say anything. But suddenly the Master crept up behind him and patted his shoulder. The Master asked him what he had been doing so far. He hadn't been home since yesterday. He thought he'd been eaten by animals or died of cold somewhere. Where has he been? Sue asked, what do you mean since yesterday? Did he go out yesterday? But he realized that he had pretended then that he had become forgetful due to overwork. But sometimes the Master is so naive he believes so, but then he thought he believed it. When Sue came home, he asked the Master, what is this leaf? The Master replied that this was the new schedule for his day. Sue began to say, from 5 to 11 a.m., a task for every half hour. And there's hunting in between. But why can't it be moved to the second half of the day, which is scheduled to be completely free? Because his only student will die. The Master replied that he had grown stronger and would be able to do anything. So why was the afternoon completely free? Sue replied that it turns out that the Master will teach him new martial arts techniques at this time. The Master replied that no, from tomorrow onwards he would be coming down from the mountains to the people. Sue asked in surprise, descending from the mountains to the people? The Master thought and replied that all was right, and it was time for him to know the world alone and go out into the people. Coming down the mountain, Sue started talking out of surprise that it was his first time here, and it turned out to be so beautiful. But Master didn't leave him alone and asked him why his eyes were bulging and stopped procrastinating and let him move faster. Sue said he just hadn't been to a village this big in a long time. Where are they going now, and with gold too? To a trading house for a shot? The master replied that he would find out soon. There was no need to hurry. Sue immediately noticed that this old man was behaving strangely. Before leaving the house, the master asked the boy what was that outfit he was wearing. Sue replied that the master had told him to dress neatly because they would be going to the village. The master punched him and asked him what he thought looked neat, or was he just pretending to be a tramp? And who would choose him dressed like that? Sue asked with surprise, what will he choose? And yes, the master hadn't yet said where they were going and for what purpose. The master thought a moment and replied that when they reached, he himself would guess the great plan. Now have him quickly change into something clean and comfortable, and let him take his bangs down. His yellow eyes stand out a lot. Sue all realized that the master had been acting very strange since this morning. Did he really bring him here? Sue was walking through the city and thought, where is this liquor store? But when he entered the establishment, he told the elder that merchant Chen was at his service. Chen told the elder that his request was too much. He looks to be about 11 years old. How can he allow him to perform on stage, especially since he's a boy? The master asked him, does he mean to say that he is rejecting him because of his age, appearance, and gender? But he is at least Yun and a boy, and he tells him that in playing the tangam he has no equal. He's going to play, let him prepare the stage. Chen said that the guests of their Chung Haiyan-ru drinking parlor should not only be pleased with their ears, but also with their eyes. Even among the girls there is a strict selection process. How can he allow such a young and even such a dark boy to perform on stage? The master asked if his principles were so old-fashioned. He is very much disappointed. Chen replied that he was asking the elder for forgiveness. The master got angry and told them all to be damned. Houses with easy girls and drink houses have obvious differences. But why is it that only looks and gender are important to both, and they don't even plan to look at the game itself? The master told Sue to remember today's offense and let him try to become a better person. But Sue replied to the master to stop talking about such things. He wondered what they would do when they came down from the mountains. And it turned out they were planning to sell his only good, poor, gifted, underage student. The master asked him who he was talking about. Did he have such a disciple? He hoped his chatty apprentice would learn something new today. Sue asked, playing tang jim in a drinking parlor is a lesson in his opinion? Let him stop lying. It's a crime of human trafficking. The master grabbed him by the hair and replied, how dare he contradict him, you talkative contagion. Sue started yelling that a criminal slave trader was killing an underage boy. Let them help the poor, gifted, underage boy. The master asked the disciple, what kind of place was this called a shot shop? Sue replied that it must be a place where alcohol is sold. The master replied that this was how little he knew about life. He guessed his thoughts, so he wanted to send him there. He doesn't know how much his master cares for him. Sue realized in his head that the master was actually not worried about him. And now if that grimace was removed from his face, maybe he would believe him. The master said that a drinking room is a place where people of different classes gather and talk about this and that. That's where all the information is concentrated. For a young person like him, the drinking room is the place where you can plan how to change the world. And moreover, the people who go in there pay money to sit there, and in turn, he will be able and earn the skill of playing tangam. And he can accept. Who would refuse such an offer? But why would he be born a dark-skinned boy and miss out on such a chance? Sue immediately realized that this was the real reason. Sue said that still, to summarize, he failed everything. Since that's the case, should they go home? Master asked. What home? He doesn't have the word fail in his vocabulary. He won't leave him. And they still have plenty of places to visit, so let him get up. Sue in his head wished he'd better give up. Where else was he going? The master told him that he would be out for a while. Let him wait for him here. Sue was thinking at this time, what was this house called Costume Jewelry? But after a few hours the master came, and Sue asked him what he had. The master replied that he would explain later. They didn't have much time. They had to hurry. Sue followed the trail of the master and wondered what was going on here. But he sensed something was wrong. But suddenly the master told him that he would leave him one more time. Sue thought that the more time passed, the more it stressed him out. Sue asked the master what was behind his back. She first looked at him and then handed over those bags. what was really inside. The master replied that he would know everything later, and now going to the next place is the most important thing. Sue kept following him and wondering why he didn't say anything to him. But what was this old man up to anyway? But when he came to the house, he saw that it was the blacksmith's, and it turns out that this is the place where iron takes on a new appearance. The blacksmith asked the old man why he wanted such a boy. Should he make a sword to his size? The master replied and suggested that they discuss the details inside. Sue thought, was master really going to order a sword especially for him? And was he such a good person? But suddenly from home the master asked the lad why not. But the blacksmith replied that he was quite green. Don't you understand? The foreman replied that he was 15. He's an adult. He has 3 times the strength of a normal man. Sue thought, he'll be 12 soon. What does the master say anyway? But the blacksmith said he had his own principles and would have to pay 2 silver coins. The master was greatly surprised and replied that he said he was not an ordinary boy. He lifts a 30-pound iron with ease. He would replace it with 3 or 4 laborers. Sue realized that it was only a wooden stick. The blacksmith said it was too expensive. And 2 coins in daily installments? How so? The master got angry and asked, does he have eyes for decoration? He can't see this full of vigor young body. The blacksmith said it was good. It will be according to his judgment. 3 silver coins and daily payments. The master agreed and replied that it was good. For that price he would give him the boy. Let him keep him safe. Sue was deeply shocked, realizing he wasn't that easy to buy. Maybe the old blacksmith was just a creep who liked younger people and had paid to have him for one night. The master asked the guy what he was doing. He'll be working in this forge from today, so he'll quickly stand up and say hello. Sue thought, it turns out, work of a traditional nature. But working in a forge is considered one of the hardest jobs. Dirty, hard, and unsafe. And how could the craftsman sell it? Sue asked the master how could he do that to him. He wouldn't work in a place like this. But the master shut his mouth and said that they were having a conversation for a moment. He replied to Sue that if he couldn't overcome the simplest test, how was he going to become an invincible martial arts master? This work is part of the training. While he's pounding iron, he'll gain strength. His hands will get stronger, and his hands will get stronger, and he will also learn patience. The master asked if he understood him. It's all to his benefit, so let him not whine and work hard. Sue asked, does he think he doesn't know the real reason? He wants to harness him to make money. Sue said that hard work such as ironworking cripples the hands, and as a result, the sensitivity of the fingers is lost. The master started laughing and said, what a thought. Let him not be troubled. Let him say who he is. He is a great master who can wield the invincible sword of thunder. He has already thought of everything. Sue asked him what he came up with. Let him tell him. The master replied that he would tell later, at home. If he does a bad job and gets kicked out, punishment will follow, so let him do a good job. Sue asked him for the master to stop. After all, he's just a slave trader, and left his apprentice behind. There was a blacksmith in the town of Chelwakan that specializes in making armaments. Only here and nowhere else can you buy top-notch clinics for mere pennies. But there were the main customers of the forge Iami people living in the mountains, followers of the female martial art. And the other customers are people who work for Ami's followers, merchants, travelers, and generally ordinary people. And he thinks that instead of Chelwashan, this forge could have been called Amichan. So come to think of it, all the buildings in this village could use the prefix Ami in their names. And in this village, everything, in one way or the other, is related to the followers of Ami. But Master Chelvashan is considered the best among the dippers. That's why he's called the Master of the Sword. But when Ami's followers come to him to pick up his order, he can't help himself. When meeting with customers, Guy said that this sword was forged from high-quality steel. And how was he? The girl replied that it's a good length and the quality is great, but it's a little heavy. She specifically asked them to make a sword of good quality, but as light as possible. And it's a sword for young Samai, and how are they going to explain that to her? The guy replied that the sword is designed with a special technology. First, they process the soft and hard steel separately, even making the 2 ingots run 9 times. And so the sword may be heavy, but if you compare it to other swords of this quality, this has the perfect weight. And they can see for themselves by taking another blade. Let it strike in the middle or on the edge of the sword. The girl struck the sword and saw it break. She said the broken sword was pretty good too, and this one didn't even have a scratch on it, and let them think there was no claim. The girl told Sami to take it and try it. And how is the sword? Is it not heavy for her? Sami replied that it's not too hard, and she likes it, and the blade is so shiny. The girl said that since Sami liked it, she would buy it, and asked her to forget the unflattering words. She just cares for the young creature. The blacksmith had been following them all this time and said that he was still alive. But suddenly Sue asked what was wrong with him. Did they come to him for debt? The blacksmith replied, how else is it debt? They are scarier than death. The blacksmith asked the fellow why he had brought this heavy load. Sue replied that the other men were ready to work, but the boss was not, and they said to give him a little kick in the head to hurry up. The blacksmith asked with surprise, give these a smack on the head? That's deadly. Yes, and he is so scared to death because of the last customers. Sue asked, are Ami's followers really that scary? Are they guilty of something in front of them? Why is he so afraid of them? Smith replied that he didn't know himself. They just don't like him, and he is afraid of even a woman's silhouette because of them. He remembered in a moment how he told the customers that this sword was so smooth, if she tied it to her waist, she wouldn't lose it. Would she want to try it? The blacksmith told Sue that he had tried to sell a sword to Ami's followers once, long ago, and tried to be very polite. And they put a sword to his neck. There's a saying, you don't spit in a smiling man's face. But they order swords from him, and to know their requirements, they have to communicate face to face, and he tries not to conflict with him. Sue said that they understand. It depends whose face is smiling. Sometimes you want to put a sword to it, and his face is just like that. The blacksmith asked in surprise, what part? What part of his face? Sue replied that he did too when he came here for the first time. The blacksmith said that his master asked him to give him a 30-kilogram iron hammer. Would he really be able to lift it? Sue thought, how could this be possible? That damn master means he also left a special request. He's really happy and had to tell the blacksmith to give him the hammer. Sue took a hammer and asked, you have to pound this and make its surface flat, right? The blacksmith was very surprised and replied that he was a strong man, and asked, where did he come from? The blacksmith asked where they got those from. The boy can, and from today he will live with him, and uncle will take care of him. Sue said that it was good that the men had time to pull him away, or else he was already ready to use that hammer. The blacksmith replied that he didn't understand. Why is he, such a kind man, being treated like this? Suddenly a guy came in and said they were about to get rich. The sword they sold to the Ami followers today was very much to their liking. It seems like they'll be ordering it in bulk soon. The blacksmith asked with surprise, didn't he? And they hadn't told him any such thing a few minutes ago. The boy replied that a girl from the clan had come to order another sword for herself and had told him about it in confidence. And she also said that this sword is of very high quality and costs nothing at all, so the other students will also be coming soon. And it seems that the girl who received the sword today is the niece of Chief Master Ami. Sue asked he hoped they weren't going to increase his assignments now. The blacksmith replied that he had increased his payment to 4 silver coins 2 months ago. From today's month, he would be giving him 5. He'll get a good daily bonus too. He's only been with them for 10 months, and that's an unrealistic salary for a newcomer. Sue replied that he would refuse, since he wasn't the one spending the money. Especially, does the blacksmith think that's all he does all day? Smith replied that it would be solved if he talked to his master, but Sue replied that it's not nice. Sue was very angry and thought that they had found a slave, and it was not difficult to die like this. If it wasn't for the ginseng doll, he would have fed the worms by now. When will it end? 10 months ago, the first day after working at the forge, Sue said that he had come home. The master replied that he still hadn't had dinner and was waiting for him. Master told the guy to agree that eating after work is even tastier. Given his accomplishments, he's allowing him to eat meat from today, so let him eat. Sue realized that it was delicious. But what was this old man up to? It was unlikely that his conscience had awakened, or he wouldn't have sold it. Master said that since he was done eating dinner, could they start their training? He was afraid he'd lose sensation in his fingers. He had prepared something. Sue realized that of course he did. He had decided to mess with him again. The master asked his apprentice if he remembered what he had told him in the village, that he already had a plan to help him. Let him look at Beetle. Sue was surprised and asked, what could be made of him? A poor disciple like him, who worked tirelessly all day, has no idea. The master said, meaning what can be done with it? Practice, of course. Here he is now. Suddenly, Sue thought, what did he pull out of his sleeve? The master told Sue that he would pick it up in his hands and toss it. And lo and behold, all the colors of the rainbow in that order, 5 times 35 pieces he must put on one thread. Did he get it? Sue replies to the master that it turns out that before he became a criminal and child exploiter, he worked in a circus. He thinks master could still come back now. The master replied to tell him to stop talking nonsense. This activity will help him train his optic nerves and also his hand speed. It's the ending that counts. Let him watch carefully. The master said he had to tie the 2 ends together first. And he has booms. And how did he understand? No more than 35 per line. No more and no less, so that there's no gap between the balls. Let him try to tie the ends together. At first, they'll start with 100 a day. They would be paid 2 bronze coins for each busu, so let him try his best. Sue replied that it wasn't training, it was work. And another 100 beads a day would be worth 200 bronze coins. And how much does he plan to earn in exchange for the health of his only apprentice? The master asked him, does he think it's all about the money? It's the training. And if the training also generates income, then it's 2 for 1. Sue replied that in his opinion, this was not training. The master told him to shut up and listen further. So, he has a knife that he gave him for self-defense. That's just the knife he's going to do something with every day. Sue asked, what will he do? The craftsman replied that he would create wood products, a small souvenir Buddha, a comb, and other things. And he would negotiate the price, so no need to worry, it's time to get started. Sue asked the master, did he bring him here to mock him? The master asked, what is he saying again? This is just another way to restore the sensitivity of the fingers of the hands after working at the forge. Sue was angry and thought the old man was unscrupulous. And if the forge master talked to him, he would probably make him work the night shift as well. And at this rate, he's sure to die soon. And it seems that it would be better to play the kayagim in front of an audience than to forge iron day and night in a forge. Sue decided to leave the master, and on the way thought that he hoped he was doing the right thing. And maybe the overexertion had made his mind clouded, but he began to move even faster. But suddenly he felt sick and began to wonder if he was doing the right thing. But if he didn't run away now, he'd be dead. But what had he done to him? Why did he feel so bad? And sure enough, he'd skated off in the woods at some point. But suddenly a monkey pounced on him, but Sue used his feather and defeated it with ease. And he should have kicked their ass earlier. But for him right now, whatever happens, it's better to keep saving money. It's only for his future. Sue said that there had been a whole invasion of monkeys lately. It had better be boars, though he would get some meat. Or maybe the monkey master eating. He grabbed one of the inn and asked the master, is it edible? He picked it up on the road. The master asked his disciple, would he eat it himself? He had brought one of his own kind and would eat it. And now he had spoiled his mood. And he let him throw it away and made dinner. Sue asked, where does that make him look like him? Plowing all day long, and when he comes home from work, she makes him cook dinner too. The master asked, so what? Should he do it? Sue replied that he thought he should cook. He's the younger one, and he's going for dinner right now. The master asked him where he was going. He's got to go to the Cunha. And where did he take that stinker? Sue replied that he had forgotten. For this monkey he must throw away. But the master wondered what his apprentice was doing in the forge. But Sue immediately went to his room and hid the bag, hoping that master didn't notice what he brought with him. But Sue immediately took to the beads and said he would do this one first. And then the wood carving would follow. But suddenly he went to the master's door and heard him snoring. And Sue said that the child exploiter had fallen asleep. Sue took hold of his bag and decided that first he should try practice. But should the skirt be worn over pants or on a bare body? He doesn't know. He didn't really look at women's legs. And they said he should powder his cheeks with it so he wouldn't be recognized as a boy, so he decided to put more on. He was told that women use all that makeup. You have to look older, and it's a good thing there's an eye pencil in here too. Everything has to be perfect. He looked at the mirror and was surprised, and he thought maybe it's because it's a cheap mirror, and he thinks something's wrong. Suddenly he remembered that he needed to do his hair, since he was like an unmarried woman Could he just leave his hair loose? But Sue decided that he would make more effort to look like a girl. But then the master came in and asked him, "Does he think he's asleep?" "Ah, well, let him see what he's doing. He's been acting really weird since tonight." But suddenly he dropped his stick. And seeing the student's face, he asked, "What did he get? Even ghosts look more decent." Master said that the bottom line was, he wanted to get a job in a shot shop fooling everyone and easily make money by moving only his fingers. Sue replied that he understood. He had overstepped his bounds, and he won't do it again. The master said, "Of course, he's way out of line. Is that what he taught? Good thing I pretended to be asleep and went in to see him." Sue thought that this old man, he was snoring. So was he faking it? That's so mean. He's going to be a joke for 100 years with this, especially since he's caught red-handed. He can't get away with it. The master said he'd have been caught in a liquor store and only embarrassed. If he's going to do something, let him do it more believably. What kind of a travesty is that? Especially if something doesn't work out, he refuses to do it. Is that what he taught him? And if he decides to pretend, he must forget that he is a man and think like a woman. He must become a woman so that no one suspects him. So he tells him to study and study again. And what would he do without him? The master said that from tomorrow, after working in the forge, they will make a girl out of him, and he'll make a perfect woman out of him. Until then, don't let him dream of working in a liquor store. Sue thought, what does all this mean? Why does he have goosebumps running through his body? And he felt like he had lost something especially important. Sue apologized and thanked him, saying he wouldn't do it again. Today's masquerade is the result of overwork, so he asked them to forget everything they saw. The master closed his mouth and said that he started at will, but he could not finish at will. The next day, the master brought everything and said, "Here is everything the girls wear when they go out over all their clothes. From underwear to outerwear, put everything here in order. Let him try it on. From now on, after work, this is the only thing he'll wear after work. He'll teach him how to behave." Sue said he couldn't be serious. He'd rather be in the forge working day and night. The master replied that he would not give up easily. Moreover, whether he gets a job in a tavern or not, it's good training. But suddenly Sue said that every day he makes him do strange things and excuses himself that it's all training. Master got angry and asked what he thought it was not training, and why not try to become one of them? With this experiment, he would be able to see the world from a different perspective and learn a lot of new things. Sue asked, did he really think he could really turn him into a woman? The master replied, to make the impossible possible. Has he forgotten the saying? He may not become a woman, but he should at least try. Try to get closer to the ideal. And he also wants to point out right away, when he dances, don't let him take off his clothes. Sue was surprised and asked, what do you mean undress? And he will not dance? Sue thought that the damn master had decided to sell him to some vulgar establishment. Suddenly the master said that from the look in his eyes he had guessed everything. And yes, those bracelets he gives him every year for his birthday. Sue replied, he's about these iron things that get heavier and heavier every year. The master replied that he was a talker, and to develop his flexibility and grace, he allows him to use the phoenix techniques as a basis for the dance. Let him try to look pretty with these bracelets. But if he relies only on martial arts, he will get a kick out of it, Sue asked. Why is he making him dance? The master replied that that's the way he wants it, and that's it. If he doesn't like it, he can try to run away from his blows. Also, have him take this and put it on the bracelets. Sue asked, what are the bells for? The master asked, don't you understand? They are not supposed to make a sound when he dances. He's allowed to shake them once during the performance. Sue said he certainly doesn't understand. The bells themselves are constantly ringing. Why is he tormenting him like this? The master replied that when he grew up, he would understand all the great thoughts of the master. Now when he comes back from the forge, let him try to imitate women. Since he will become a girl, we should give him a new name still. Sue said he's not a girl. He will just wear a woman's clothes. Suddenly the master said he'll call him Yen B. From his name, B Ryu Yen, he'll take out Ryu, and if it's reversed, it'll be Yen B. And Yen just means beauty, and it sounds beautiful. And since everything is perfectly prepared, let him go and change. He gives him 15 minutes. Later, the master lay down and said he was as slow as a wasp. What is he doing there? Let him come out immediately. Suddenly, Sue came out and said that he had changed his clothes. But the master was very surprised and froze when he saw his disciple. Sue asked, "Did he do it right?" But the master looked and replied that he knew where to hook, but he has no idea how. And since he's dressed as a grateful lady, let him behave accordingly. Isn't he familiar with the concept of elegance? Hair neatly gathered behind the ears, gathered behind the ears, knees slightly bent. Sue asked me where I'd seen that. It's a bit feminine, isn't it? And no, first of all, if you move so gently that you don't even make the sound of bells, it is, though feminine, suspicious. The master thought about it and replied that the disciple was right. Who knows, it may be prejudice. Still, right or wrong, let him forget it. And in the midst of these prejudices, a woman was born. Let him sink into his role. And one must accept the pain of being a woman and having to become a true maiden of this era. No, he will even transform. She still hasn't accepted her new self. Suddenly, Sue realized that Master had broken up again. Master said that this book is all about hair and makeup. Let him study it thoroughly, although it makes no difference if he has hair or not. Sue asked, "Do you have to go that far in this women's stuff?" Master said that guy is one martyr. Did he say girl? Is he a guy? What is this manner of speech? Let him forget the past as a man, it must be repeated. He is without doubt a feminine and elegant girl. Speech and voice more gentle. The master said so. From now on, having studied everything well, he should show a real lady. The master decided to take a little walk and took the tiger with him. But on the way, he saw berries hanging on a tree. Suddenly, he shook the tree with his foot and all the berries fell to the ground. The tiger was very happy and began to play with them. The master said that fall is indeed harvest time. Suddenly, he remembered that that guy was over 2 months old, and now the other side must be harvested as well. They'll rest here, and he still has things to do. Staring at the moon, he doesn't know how to drink, and only the shadows follow him aimlessly for a moment frozen. But before fall is over, he wants to enjoy it. But in the meantime, the man poured a drink and told the guy not to worry about wake-up time. The guy asked, "How about having a drink with him?" And how pathetic he is, daring him, the great teacher. The teacher replied that it was for 4 months of such a long journey. He thinks they have become friends enough. The guy smiled and said, "That's the trouble. Just let him look at him." And that he didn't mean it. The teacher replied that he apologized. If that was in order, he would take the cup immediately. The boy said that it's impossible not to have a cup of Kamnamchen on such an autumn night. He has such a thoughtful look. But suddenly on the street, the superintendent said that no, this time, even though it's a woman, you can't do it again. Is she really 11 years old? And he took a good look, 12 at the very least. And for all his sanity, poisoning this child on the tavern stage was too much. The master asked him, does he only live by deceit? And besides, shouldn't she be entertaining the eyes and ears of visitors? Let him not delude himself that because of her age, the girl will not meet with these problems. But suddenly the boy got very angry and said that she was so young, and already she was being sold to a tavern. And suddenly the master replied to the chief that he would say that he did not know the truth about this fellow. The boy said it was hard to forgive. The teacher asked the captain to reconsider. There are too many eyes in this case. The teacher said the neighborhood is within range. As long as he's willing, he'll follow the old man. The boy told him to keep his head down, and also with his stubbornness. But the master tried to tell him and asked the captain where he was going. The guy replied that if he couldn't erase the memories, leaving the place was also an option. And the excitement subsides, and the remaining alcohol seems to fade away. The master said to the chief, "Isn't it obvious? He came to him with gold. Let him prepare the scene today." The chief replied to the old man that he would not forget it in his life. He would do so. Let him wait a little while. Suddenly, Sue asked the master what he was looking at. Did he hurt his feelings with his words, and now he's here to get on his nerves? The master asked, "What was the big deal he said?" He just missed a couple jokes. But Sue asked him, "Who is it? What's going on behind there?" The master replied to ignore the useless things. Better let him get ready, and also need to act without extraneous thoughts. Did he understand everything? Sue replied that everything had already been decided. But at this time, people in the tavern were asking what kind of child. And the tool is bigger than her. And she's pretty but too young, don't they think? Could she be the tavern owner's daughter? Judging by her eyes, there's something Western about her. And what kind of bell is that? It looks like a piece of jewelry. but it doesn't make a sound. It's an unusual child indeed. Sue began to play the instrument, and people said that it was a good start. Could such a sound really come out of these young hands? Sue thought in his head and saw that this grandfather was like a ghost. By golly, how did he know again? Even though he had become a girl. Working at the tavern had not badly transformed his life, but suddenly the master came home and saw Sue already working. He asked, "What kind of ignorant type is this? Chopping wood is a must." The master began to laugh and said he was speaking the softness of a woman. "Does he chop wood there? Or what else does he do?" The words cat and to make not a sound of a bell. Trad ennobles wisdom, though difficult, need not be afraid of change. Master said as long as the lanterns shine, let him practice. Sue replied, "What kind of bullying is this?" Or girls apparently give a basin, they'll immediately scoop out the pool. But suddenly the master slapped him and told him to speak softly. Sue asked, "Why does the master slap an innocent girl? Did the master give her a slap to make her gentler?" The master asked him if he had seen a master separating students by gender. "He's not like that, floor discrimination." Sue replied that it is already an insult, actually. But Sue got really angry and saw that it only got harder. But if he tried his best today, he believes this image will be over with. And luckily, it seems I haven't made any mistakes yet. Everything is going according to the plan. Although you can fail if you do it by rote, you can fail if you only do as you're told. During the music, Sue thought, why are they doing this? As if intoxicated by the music. Let everyone look at her. Can't they hear the rhythm? They should open their eyes already. Let them sing and dance and enjoy the music. And he sees that uncle is pleased with everything. But what was his name? I think it was Han-san. And he hopes he'll remember his performance for a long time. And now it's time for them to wake up. Han-san said the chances of success are great. They'll make a contract to start with. And how about starting with 5 silver coins a day? The master was surprised and asked him, he calls himself an honest entrepreneur. Is he too cunning for that? He still remembers the reactions of the audience to this child's performance. Sue remembered that there was applause from the entire audience. They all listened so hard. He felt embarrassed because he was playing without trying hard. The master said, by the way, would he like him to reveal one truth to him? Hansen asked in surprise. What was he talking about? The master replied that when he met this child, he gave her the name Yen Bi, where yen means swallow and bi means flight. Extraordinary beauty flying in the sky is the meaning. Hansen asked, and that should surprise him? The master asked, did she really not understand the meaning of that expression? If talent was only in playing an instrument, he would have named her after a lark or an oriole. Yet the name is named after a beautifully flying swallow. This is due to the fact that this child can dance, and incredibly mesmerizing. So much so that he would immediately forget even the playing of the instrument he had just heard. Hansen replied that it was the first time he had ever heard him praise him like that. And in that case, before the treaty was concluded, they should have seen not singing, but dancing. The master replied that what he had seen was more than enough. Why show everything for free? It's a waste of energy. Sue realized at this moment that the teacher was not only philosophizing with him, it turns out that he also knows how to philosophize with others. The master said that if he insisted, they could of course show the dance. But then both he and this child would be completely tired, and they would have to raise the terms of the contract. 3 times? Hansen asked with surprise. At 3? Before reflecting the list of works in the contract, he has to check everything. It's a compulsory process, and he's overdoing it somehow. Sue was surprised, and it's a lot better than the forge. It's like stealing in broad daylight. The master said that given his position, it was the best plan. He would thank him later. Hansen asked, what plan is he talking about? The master said to trust him and only double the fee. When he later saw her dance, and if he thought she wasn't worth the money, he would give it back to him any minute. Hassan replied that since the elder says so. Suddenly the master stood up and said that they would summarize their agreement. The first one is 10 silver coins a day. And here's another thing. This child will only perform on even numbers of the month. No performances on the day of the full moon or new moon. He realizes himself if the physical wears out every day, the art won't look as graceful, it will need rest. And all the tips that the guests will give on top are theirs. Hansen replied that it was fine, they decided, and he agreed. Suddenly the master replied that last, This child would only dance when she wanted to. Hansen said, "That's already outrageous. This agreement is made precisely because the oldest emphasized her dancing skills." The master replied that it would, on the contrary, increase the demand of his business. People would be enthralled by her performance and would think, if her singing is so beautiful, what is her dancing like? They will come every day hoping to see this spectacle. And he thought he had outstanding management skills, but it turns out they were so-so. Hansen replied that his words made sense too. He had once been nicknamed Mount Cume. How could he compare to him? And thanked him for teaching him. In the evening, Sue asked the master if he must necessarily follow this path. The master replied that it was the direct way home. And unfortunately, work at the liquor store ends late at night. So since he's a girl now, so that he doesn't get harassed by anyone, let him take the shortest way home. Sue asked angrily, what kind of girl is he to him? Does he know how hard it is to walk down such a road in a skirt? The master replied that he doesn't know. It's not like he's a woman and doesn't wear a skirt. Anyway, what doesn't kill them makes them stronger. But suddenly Sue asked, what else is that stone wall? Where does he see a road here? Does he think if he drew a straight line on the map, he can follow it? Every day he repeats that he's become a girl. So what? How on earth is he going to get in there in those clothes? It's too much. The master replied that he is a grump. There is a woman who even after childbirth walks this road with ease. Suddenly Sue asked him, who was he? The master replied that their tigress was Belankaya. From now on, 7 times a fortnight, he would have to walk this road, so let him stop whining and follow him faster. Suddenly Sue thought that he was actually a fool. He shouldn't have listened to him, but still, he must ask. He senses a trick in his actions. Sue tried to ask him something, but the master turned around abruptly and asked, what does he want? But suddenly he saw that the stone wall leads to this road, and this road is really short. Sue said that it is clear that because of the forge, he will perform in the drinking room once every 2 days. But why did he exclude the day of the full moon and new moon? Are those days dedicated to martial arts? The master replied that the wooden toy workshop said they wanted to see him once and twice a month. He made good toys. Why did he sometimes create such strange things? But suddenly he asked, what was the cry of the monkeys? And the creation of heaven and earth? And the dream of the river catfish is something with something. And then Sue replied that without a new attempt, the arts cannot develop. The master told him to stop. When he goes to the village, let him take the toys with him and try to sell them himself. It'll help him for the future. He will know how the market turns. It will help him from time to put a price on goods. Sue said the master means to say that all he's going to do for a month is make money, always making him work, and he's not going to teach him martial arts. But suddenly Seo was surprised that the master didn't hit him. After all, he had gone too far. The master said they had to work it out, and asked if this house was even whose house it was. Sue replied that this was master's house. The master asked who had picked up the boy, who could not hunt, clean, or speak, and had taken him in for 3 years and was teaching him music and martial arts. Suddenly Sue replied that the answer was obvious. Master said how rude he was. Suddenly Guy felt that he was now hitting him without even putting his hand on him. The master asked what would be the last question. Which one of them is younger? Sue replied that he was. The master asked, then what else is he lacking? He brought him here, gave him his home, and is teaching him. He must work and earn money, mustn't he? In fact, Sue feels he is right. He is being treated unfairly, but he can't find anything to say to him, can't find any arguments. The master said to try complaining like that from now on, and he would watch his behavior. Sue realized that this was the bitterness and resentment of a brilliant boy who had nothing. But if it's about money, you can earn it. If it's about strength, you have to train, and that's it. That's right, you've got to get your will together. He'll train his strength like he's doing now. The main thing, it is necessary, first of all, to save money, unnoticed by the master. And that's right, he's not going anywhere. And the master will spend his money until he goes from being a boy of genius to a general old man. And when he gets rich, he will answer him for everything, with the same stone. Maybe when that day comes, he will cry and beg him and live with him together. And they'll see about that, you damn master. And today's genius boy will soon be a genius rich man who owns a lot of asses. The next day, Sue set to work. In the morning, he headed to the bazaar and then went to the forge. But a man stood in front of the tavern and told him to come to them. If they didn't mind, you could go inside. But the man replied that no, he would go in when he saw Yunbi enter the establishment. If he doesn't see her today, he'll have to wait 4 whole days for them to meet. After all, the day after tomorrow is the new moon. The man said he wondered if she would show the dance today. I mean, today is the last day before a 3-day weekend, and he hopes she will be for them? The guy replied that he doesn't know that ahead of time. But suddenly B came in and people started telling everyone to look at her gracefulness. Their B is now 16 years old and let them look at her skinny body, her short stature. Could they give her a treat? But B walked into the tavern and stood behind the instrument. The men immediately all ran inside together and tried to take seats. But suddenly Guy heard the sound of hooves and said that they had arrived. Chon Yangru said to prevent information leaks. When they booked the bonfire, they didn't announce who they were, and it seems that's why no one met. But suddenly the man came out and replied that he had done the right thing. He was worried because it was a hotel together with a liquor store, but it seemed in vain since it was so quiet. And it's time to go inside. The man said they would stay here for a while. Isn't Rin tired? Rin replied to her father that she was perfectly fine. The man asked if she wanted to go for a walk, and she could use some fresh air. The guy said that Yunbi is not even close to her. She's so small, but her eyes are so mesmerizing. He's so happy. Rin stood in front of the tavern and lifted her robe to look at her with her soft eyes. The boy said she was so small and his legs were already pumping. But suddenly the protector appeared and drew his blade in front of their faces. The defense attorney said she was out of their social circle. If he saw those sly eyes again, let them expect no mercy. The boys were very frightened and said they understood everything thoroughly and apologized to her. The protector said for them to call the host here immediately and have him tell him that important guests have arrived. The boys immediately ran off and into the tavern. The protector told Rin to accept his apology. He would tell the owner of the establishment to give them a good punishment. The man said he had it all figured out and it was okay to go. At the end of the evening, B went out in front of the audience and showed herself. The guys were saying that they would finally get to see B dance. Now he could die in peace. But the other guy told him that their B shows the same dance 3 days in a row, and on the 4th he invents a new one, and it's only the 10th day he's been in their drinking parlor. Isn't it a little early to die? The guy replied that he didn't mean it literally, and he's got a dead body lying next to him. The other guy asked, "What about him?" It's a side effect of Yunbi's new dance. Don't let him be surprised. He acted the same way in the beginning. Now he's used to it. The guy said it makes sense now, because his heart is racing now too. He thinks it's with him. And suddenly the chief said they couldn't go up to B with the whole crowd. Whoever makes the biggest donation collects the money from everyone else and goes alone. All of a sudden, people started saying that he paid 8 silver coins. There's a lot of competition because everyone wants to talk to her personally at least once. The guy heard such words and said, "Who knew that she had such a story, and why does not participate in the auction? He is also her fan." It turns out that he does participate. And how? But suddenly the second guy said he has no family or parents, so why does he need the money? And he'll give it to Yunbi. But suddenly she asked the guy, is his name Mr. Joe? She would gratefully accept this gift. Joe said with joy that their Yunbi had memorized his last name. But Guy told him to pull himself together. B ran away at this time and felt that the sack weighed in at 43 coins. She has a good score today, and to the master he will tell that he earned 21. But suddenly someone shouted at her to stop. The man in charge said he understood that it was time for her to go home, and his offer would seem indelicate. But could she make an extra appearance in front of special guests? He'd pay twice as much. Bai replied that it wasn't in the terms of the contract, but a double fee for night work. But if it was triple, one would think. The chief began to laugh and said that he and the elder were alike, and he agreed to pay 3 times as much. And he only asked that she try to perform well. There are high society people sitting in the ballroom. Can she do it? B replied that she would try her best, and thought he was saying high society people, and that means there are rich people here. B was not shy and went out in public, and immediately began to sing the most tender music on her instrument. B finished her music and wondered why they were so quiet. Maybe they didn't like something? But suddenly the man started hitting his hand on the table and saying good music. And no, it's even great music. He had heard nothing better in decades, and her note torments his soul, and the technique is top-notch, and the ability to convey emotion. She is so young, and in her notes one can feel the bitterness of life. Let her say, "What is her name?" The girl replied that her name is Yunbi. He is too generous, but she is just starting to play, so she still has a lot of growing to do. The man said she has a beautiful voice. She doesn't speak, she sings. Since she thinks she's still growing, does that mean her songs will be even more beautiful after a while? And he thinks that she has already reached a good level, and his name suits her. But suddenly the protector says that this girl is also good, but she is not even close to his daughter in beauty. Her beauty is already intoxicating to many men at such a young age. It is hard to imagine what kind of woman she will grow up to be. But suddenly she saw the face of the man in charge and said that he didn't mean anything like that. And the man replied to be that though she was so young, she was a very amazing performer. And he thinks she had a very strict teacher, and she's very good. And suddenly he asked his brother, "What does he think?" The guy replied that he didn't know. And unlike her, he doesn't have a hand. Therefore, he cannot understand either his or her musical sensitivity. The man immediately called Cheon and said that Mr. Namgung seemed to have had too much to drink. Let him take him to his room and let him rest. Namgung got very angry and told him not to touch him. But things were not so easy. There was a team of people heading into the forest at that time, and the guide said that this was where they should stop. And to avoid being overheard, he asked them to continue on foot. The boy replied that when they reached Mount Hen, he was in a great hurry. He thought they were going home, but it turned out they were not. Would he tell him what order the pigeon had conveyed to him? The guide replied that he had conveyed the order of the Lord. He and His Royal Highness the Prince are ordered to wipe out this village this night, and the building and the people and even the last of the pets are to be killed. I'm told to check it out for myself and only then return home. Cheon told the guy not to touch him and started laughing loudly. But B was thinking at this time that he didn't bring his sword with him to the scene. Should we use this hairpin? But there are guards around him. It would be better for him to break dates and eat them at home. Cheon said he only said one sentence, and he's already calling him a drunk. Now he can't talk to an ugly brother like him? I wish he had cut off his tongue instead of his hand. The man told Cheonu that he could see he had a lot on his plate. Cheonu replied that he was joking, so why is he so serious? Cheon tells Namgung that he hopes he's not offended because he just yelled at him. He's the second of the Namgung brothers, so what was his name there? Namun replied that his name was Jin. Su thought that was it, so that drunkard had his own brother cut off his arm. And it's hard to judge. You have to listen to both sides. They're at the same table together. Maybe it was just an accident. Cheonu told Namgung that they say he is much more talented than his brother. Namgung replied that of course not. And how can he compare to him? Cheon said, or maybe he's saying that because he's here now? The man asked, what is he talking about? Does he have some kind of grudge against him? Cheon was surprised and replied that he was here too. He didn't even notice. And he feels like he's having a hard time with his hot brother too. And people who are born first get a lot of heat in life. And there's no way they can understand their offense. He can agree, can't he? Cheon told Mr. Namgung to take care of his brother. Mr. Namgung replied that unlike an invalid like him, he was the firstborn of the family and the hope of the clan. Cheon took the bottle and said, sure, if he has to, he'll give his life. And those are beautiful words, and good luck to Mr. Namgung. And this drunkard, at his beck and call, brother, is leaving this place. As the Lord has commanded, they will not interfere. The guy saw the swords and said they were their weapons. So he's ordered to go into the village alone and massacre them. The servant asked, what are their orders then? The boy replied that they were commanded not to let any living creature out of this village until they had finished their work. The boy asked them, what if he doesn't go there? And what if he refuses to obey such an order? The servant drew his sword and replied that until he complied with the order, they couldn't go outside of this village either. The guy said they had no choice, and it seems their real mission if he disobeys the Lord's order, by any means necessary, is to eliminate him. The guy took the sword in his hand and told them to tell them who the owner of this village was and how many people he had to kill. The servant replied that the settlement belongs to them, Jok Bu. As they know, there are only 37 people living there. The guy said to fight the likes of him, Jok Bu, he needs to solve one thing. It seems he will need their help. The servant replied that they would obey him. They would do anything to carry out the order. The guy said that the problem is that he has never killed anyone before. If he takes someone's life for the first time in such a place, he will be left with psychological trauma. So he wants to try them beforehand for the sake of experimentation. And how many of them can he test? At the drinking parlor, the guy asks, what kind of atmosphere is this? And he's heard about Yun B, but her coolness amazes him. B said that she thanked him for his generous words. The guy replied that he had heard that B from Chungyanru had other extraordinary talent besides singing. Was he right? B replied, what a talent that is. Unfortunately, rumors are always overblown. The man asked, besides singing, is there something else? And what is that? And he doesn't know what it is, but let him be kind enough to show them. The guy said it's a talent, and they say it's harder to see a swallow from Chungyangru fly over the guests than it is to see an angel dance. And he doesn't know if she'll show. B replied that fortunately it was only a rumor. She is on the contrary afraid. What if she spoils a good evening? The guy started laughing and said he thought so. They say that visitors to this establishment can't wait for B to perform, that their prayers are heard even in heaven. And it seems to be true. The guy said, is it really that serious? Well, if it's that kind of dance, he'd like to see it too. The guy said that if it was such a dance, he would like to see it too. And if her dance is as amazing as everyone says it is, and she can revive their fallen spirits, she'll be well thanked for it. And how will she dance for them? B asked them with surprise, really? And if high-ranking people like them say, well, she can't imagine if she can master this weight. The guy started laughing and said, what a clever girl she is. She only looks so young. Even bad old men will pay before her. He held up both hands in front of her. He can't wait any longer. Let him not drown them. They are begging him. B smiled and replied that since it is so, and as the saying goes, good sake is made from good water and dance from music, I would like to ask their famous musicians to play her a Kimsibasolya. B said that with their permission, he would take a little time off to prepare for the show. The guy said Gum Sibasol's song, Golden Wings Covering the Snowy Night. I wonder what dance she will show to that music. The man said the very beginning is different from the other dancers, and it seems like she's not going to keep them waiting long. B was on the second floor at this time, and pulling down the large tablecloth in front of them, everyone was greatly surprised. Bai began to demonstrate her dancing abilities, and like a fairy, she descended the tablecloth and spun around. The musicians began to play the song she had asked for, and began to spin around showing them the dance they had asked of her. But in the forest at this time, Guy demonstrated his battle abilities on his men. But he was so strong that even as he attacked, he broke the sword of the servant who came out against him. But even after that, Guy didn't stop, and thrust his sword into the chest of the servant who was weak. But the ringleader stepped in front of him and said that he hoped that was the end of the training. They're afraid he'll waste his strength, but if he doesn't have enough blood, they would gladly sacrifice their heads and decorate the road to Changwon with them. The servant replied that he should not procrastinate and make it quicker. The guy smiled and said, what a caring thing to say. He even got teary-eyed. But looking to the side, he saw so many corpses that he left behind. But Guy lifted up the robe of one of the slain and asked who it was. The servant replied that his name was Ju Ren. The boy was surprised and said he was Ren speaking. The servant replied that they would take care of the corpse. Let him not try to memorize him just because it's his first corpse. He, as well as the others, are not worth it. But B kept dancing in the meantime, and the bells on her limbs jingled every time she danced. The guy thought at that moment that it was a very beautiful movement. A simple scene turned into a beautiful painting that depicts snowflakes falling in the dark night. And it's just unearthly beauty. But man saw differently and thought she was a golden bird on a dark, snowy night. This is truly the most beautiful dance. B decided to show them mystical and brightly shining eyes at the moment of the dance. The golden bird was herself. Finishing her dance, she just stopped and looked at the audience. The man in his head didn't know what words to use to appreciate her dance. He feels like he's lived today just to see this. Cheon was walking by the house at the time and said that he thought everyone was having fun. Maybe he should join in. After the show, the head of the tavern asked B if she really didn't need security. It's late and it's raining, and she has to go to the mountain. B replied that it was no big deal, just have him take care of her instrument. Because of the weather, she couldn't take it with her. And no need to worry, it's not that far to the house. And all the more just a drizzle. And at that moment, suddenly the thunder began to sound even more strongly. B said that it seemed like it was starting to pour. Still, she can't afford to have his guards climbing the mountains at this late night. The head asked her if she was going to the bank. Maybe he could walk her there. B replied that she told him not to worry about her, and she's on her way. On the way, Bee talked and was angry because her clothes were soaked. They were her most expensive. She had a good day today. She made a lot of money today, and she has to sell the gold coins quickly or the master will smell them on her. Upon arriving at the bank, she was greeted by Guy and told to speak up. Their Cheongren bank is welcome at any time. He was waiting for her. Bee said she wanted to deposit these silver coins today. Also, to change these into cash. The man saw the box and said it was gold. Bee replied that it was pure gold of the highest quality. The guy asked her how she liked it. He valued her dance not at 10 gold coins, but at 10 gold flowers. Actually, he was preparing it for other needs, but he decided to give it to her. Bee replied to him that she was expressing her gratitude to his generous soul. The guy said that since she was so grateful, maybe when her honored guests wanted to see her, she could dance for them. Bee replied that he said he would thank her well, but now on the contrary, he was asking her for a favor. She would try to fulfill all his requests if she could. Bee at the bank said it's a gift from heaven to someone who works hard, and since gold is worth so much now, she thinks she can get as much for them as he thinks. The man replies that she is remarkably knowledgeable. She marvels at her. How does she know the value of precious metals? Bee replied that she had read in a book. She remembered that studying works such as 30 Secrets You Don't Learn About in War, 300 Types of Precious Metals and Stones had clearly helped her. The man replied that he understood, and said that when he looked at her, she often thought of a young man. Her age, he had a knack for making good investments. He's incredibly rich, but he wears regular clothes and has long hair. He thinks she might find a lot in common. Well, how about arranging a meeting? Bee replied that if she wanted to, she would tell him. At parting, the man said that her wealth was their joy. May she come again? Bee replied that she would come by the other day. Bee was very angry and the banker's words hurt her. She wondered when they would say the same thing about her. And if he hadn't run out to dinner now, they'd be praising her for real. Bee realized she had to run. Even the umbrellas don't help in this weather. And it's not rain, it's a deluge. But in the city at this time, Cheon went into the room of the man he was supposed to kill and had his cherished wish fulfilled. But the kid didn't stay away either, and walked into the brothel and was covered in blood after labor. But suddenly he saw that there were people standing on the roof, and even someone was watching her. He immediately threw a knife at her and finished her off in the street. But suddenly he saw that the girl was not alone. A white-colored dog came out from under her and was very much frightened. The guy saw her and his eyes changed immediately, but he grabbed his blade because the order had already been given to him. Cheon didn't stop just there and sneaked up to his niece's room and told Rin that they hadn't seen each other in a while. Rin was very scared and asked him to stay away from her, and immediately she shouted to Father. At that time, Father was standing in front of the house and heard everything, and immediately threw his umbrella away. The man did not think long and ran to his daughter's room. After all, he had to save her if she was in danger. The next day, the blacksmith asked Sue why he was holding that baton at the table. And why did he bare his chest? He was disgusted to look at it. Suddenly, the blacksmith said it was happening again. Let him drink water normally. We have to pour it into a glass. Sue said that lately he feels like if he doesn't act like this, he will lose the most important thing about himself. He realizes that it looks rude, but it's a way for him not to lose his male ego. But after 4 days, Sue turned to Bee, and on his way to work, he was thinking why he was wearing that outfit again. And it seems to him that he's been living Bee's life more lately. Or is he just imagining it? But suddenly a man met her and said that it was forbidden to walk here and asked her how she got here. Bee replied that she came here to train. It seemed to always be free. She didn't know what was forbidden today, and she wouldn't bother them. The man replied that he didn't, and said maybe it was for the best. Maybe her music will cheer them up, and they're asking her to help them. Bee thought, and what could she do to help them? What did he mean by that? At this time, Rin was lying in her bed and didn't move. Her bird was singing songs to her and suddenly woke her up. She looked at it, and she thought it was very strange. But she remembered that night, and Rin asked her uncle to stay away from her. But Cheon said she's just the way he likes her, and her shivering like a rain-soaked kitten. And why is she driving him crazy? He can't hold his temper anymore. Rin said she didn't want to. Cheon asked what exactly she didn't like. Her body will get to someone sooner or later, so he better be the first to touch her. He won't give her to anyone. He will take her into his arms. But Rin didn't want to and started yelling to her father. Cheon asked her why she was calling him. Everyone only wants him, but no one will help her now. Daddy's got better things to do. And her pretty face, she's dirty, but he's still turned on. Her sweet eyes, delicate like crushed pearls. Her body red as a pomegranate, her lips. And he wants to undress her faster. But suddenly Rin's father came and told Cheon that he was an animal. And how dare he touch her daughter? Cheon was telling her to beg him for not having time to give her a taste of what a grown man was like. She was horny too, but he would definitely spoil her someday. Rin decided to stand up and let her bird out, and she asked her not to look at her like that. And that day things were really awful, but the bird started pecking Rin's hand, and even managed to hurt her hand until it bled. Rin thought at that moment what she had done, and she shouldn't be with her. She opened the window and told her to fly away. Rin let go of her bird and yelled for it to fly away faster. But suddenly she saw a bee dancing below. She couldn't take her eyes off her and watched her movements intently, which she liked very much. But in Rin's mind it was different. She immediately stood on the corner of the window and looked up at the sky and took a step outside. She was ready to say goodbye to her life, for she had a terrible one. But suddenly Bee saw it and ran to catch her. She immediately rushed into the air and grabbed her. Bee thought she'd thrown herself out of a window, and what an eccentric onlooker. Bee said she sprained her leg, and the esteemed security guard, he's going after people now, isn't he? The guard was greatly surprised, for she caught a man falling from such a height and not a single scratch. She even reacted faster than him, and so cold-blooded. Bee said that when he was coming back here with people, have them wait there until she called them. Bee took his leg and told him that he was scared, that she would be scared if she saw a crowd and she needed to heal her leg. The guard told her not to touch it, let her keep it. Bee replied that if she didn't hurry, her father would show up and it would be harder to treat her. Bee told him to be quiet, for she was coming to her senses. Let him go quietly, but the water must be left. Bee asked Rin how she was feeling. The girl opened her eyes and asked where she was. Bee said she seems to have come to her senses and she thinks Rin guessed it. She's in heaven. Bee started laughing and said it was a joke, and gave her a drink of water right away to bring her to her senses. Bee told her to drink some water and he thinks her whole body hurts. And after introducing himself, he asked her what her name was. Bee looked at her face and saw that she was showing signs of dehydration, with abrasions, elegance of movement, high-quality fabric, an expensive robe. He thought, judging by the guards and everything else, that she was from a wealthy family. But she didn't look like much. And I think the men were saying something about her today. In the moment, Bee all but heard the men talking about her in the tavern. The men said she was so beautiful. He'd like to take one look at her, and they say she wanted to kill herself over another kidnapping attempt. And on that rainy night, all the guards died, and no one saw her after that. We don't know if she's alive or not, and I wonder what happened that night. Bee didn't really think these men were worth believing, but still, she had a story to tell. Rin herself introduced herself as well. Bee said it was a pleasure to meet her. But can she find out the reason why she threw herself out of the window? Let her pretend she's confessing to a monk. But if she doesn't want to tell, she can choose not to. Let her just nod her head when she asks a question. And does she understand it? Bee said that, of course, if she told her, she would be happy to hear her out. She asked Rin what motivated her to jump out of the window. But Rin froze at that moment at such a question and remembered the worst night of her life when her uncle had attacked her and had cried a lot. Bee immediately hugged her tightly and didn't let go. But at this time in the bushes, the guard asked the master if they should intervene. The master replied that there was no need. She would be fine. The Lord closed his eyes and realized that Rin was crying. He had no idea how long she had been crying. She thought her tears might agitate him or her mother, so she wouldn't let herself cry. Does he have any idea? The first time Rin was kidnapped was when she was 3 years old. Then she and her wife thought she was kidnapped to get back at him. But as she turned 5, then 6, she began to notice those unsettling, inappropriate stares more frequently. And in such a terrible situation, she began to think that she was the cause. She tortured her soul, and she completely shut herself in. And even if millions of enemies walk all over him, he won't blink an eye. But what he's really afraid of, it's like hundreds of poisonous snakes trying to creep up on his daughter, poisoning and tormenting her fragile soul. And she can't even cry. And now let him look over there. His daughter is finally crying. The tears will bring out all the horrible things that have been lodged in her soul. And if she can spit out all that poison, he'll be glad of her tears and have him watch over her. And that girl named Bia, have her call him. B said at this time to put a handkerchief to her face, and then she should feel better. And let her drink some water, or she'll look like a dried date. It was the first time she'd ever seen a girl cry for so long. She thought she'd drown in her tears, but she didn't. The important thing is that she's alive. B said there would be meat for dinner at his house tonight. She had marinated it in a delicious sauce this morning. If she's even 15 minutes late, the grandfather-like master will eat it all by himself. And she can't let that happen. Rin said she almost became a monster. B was surprised and asked, "What? Is she now telling why she climbed out of the window?" Rin immediately started nodding at her questions. B said no, and she certainly looks like a homeless person. But calling herself a monster is overkill. And maybe she has a big monster mouth on her back that only shows up at night, eating poor chickens? Rin asked her in surprise, "Homeless?" B replied that she was the one with the skinny body, dull eyes, and pale skin. B said she could do it. She feels like all she does is sit in a locked room like a sick person. Suddenly, B realized that it was wrong again. He was constantly speaking out at the old man's unjust actions. It seemed his tongue had now become uncontrollable. Rin asked, "She is homeless and sick." B at this time didn't know why, but she seems to be smiling. We should change the topic of conversation while she's in a good mood. B said to tell her why she felt like a monster. Rin replied that she could see it, but it was creeping up on her. Sticky, murky, dark thoughts of people. And she's very afraid she's going to be the same. B asks, "Then how is she to her? Does she have something inside her too?" Rin replied that she didn't know yet. Can't see anything yet. And she doesn't know what it's about, but it's a shame she can't see it in her. B said that since she had such a gift, surely she couldn't be fooled by bad people. Rin replied that it's not as easy as she thinks. All people are monsters. B replied that you don't have to do that. He's a human being too. And in her opinion, is she a monster too? And it seems like she's been around too many bad people. Let her say when she looked at the cute babies at her parents, how did she feel? Surely she felt good, light at heart. Rin replied that there were sticky, nasty creatures crawling all over her then. B said that in that case, have her do a purge. Sticky, nasty creatures, they can be killed and replaced with good people. Rin was greatly surprised and asked her, "Kill?" But at that time, Cheon was able to escape and was on his way in the desert. Cheon went to his man who made him an iron hand. The old man said that he had preserved it perfectly. Among soldiers, and not only, this steel prosthesis is called the crown weapon of the western sky. There are those who refer to it as the West Wind Riot, but in fact they gave him the name of Bull Manjutsu, and she would hardly have found a different master. It was an honor to work with him. And this prosthesis cannot be used by one-armed people who have a right arm. It will also have no use if the arm is longer or shorter than the prosthesis. And he's got everything going for him. The physique, the arm length, the bullpen was made just for him. Cheon said that was enough flattery. The rest of his arm was a little longer. I had to adjust his arm to fit him. It seems like that's how much longer his arm was with the prosthetic. The old man asked with surprise, "What? Did he cut it off?" Cheon replied that people try not to look much at what they consider ugly. Now his right arm is a little shorter than his left, but no one even suspects. The old man asked him if he could look at his hand. Cheon replied to let him have a look. Cheon asked, did they cut off his legs? Before making prosthetic legs for others, he should have made his own legs. The old man replied that if he made prosthetic legs, the poison on his legs would spread throughout his body. Cheon asked, is it to guarantee safety? He heard that everyone here is mute except him. It's done that way on purpose. The old man replied that among his guards there were those who were mute from birth. They could neither read nor write, but they spoke in the sign language. So he can be calm. He has to interact with customers while working, so they made sure he can't run away. But suddenly the old man was surprised and said that his bone was exposed. He must have been in a lot of pain. How did he stand it? Cheon replied that it hurt, but it was worth it. Last night he went to a friend's room. The guy saw him and asked, did it have to be so abrupt? He didn't knock and scared him some more. Cheon said that after all, this city was one of the main palaces of their clan. Who here could attack him? He looks ridiculous. The guy replied that he wasn't going to listen to him. He had had too much to drink and went to bed. Why show up at this late hour? Cheon replied that he had important information. Information about the western sky. The guy was greatly surprised and asked what. He's talking about what he's thinking about right now. Is he referring to one of the celestial spirit's bloodthirsty subjects? Chun replied that yes, he was talking about the western sky he was currently searching for. The one who is said to be a one-armed man with two arms. The guy said he understood and asked how he knew about it. He'd never told him about the western sky, much less that he was one-armed. Cheon wondered why his brother, the clan head, had decided to visit these parts then. It's obvious. And they had told their friends that he was one-armed. The guy said his brother had given him a directive about the western sky just an hour ago and added that no one but him should know about it. Therefore, neither in front of Yukhak nor Takjung did he say this name, and he also instructed that no one should tell him this information. And in the meantime, not only has he managed to find out everything they're working on, but he somehow found information on this man, and then he went straight to his sword. And suddenly Cheon showed his face and said that he seemed to have guessed. And Boy was very surprised when he asked where his right hand came from. Cheon replied that he had had that prosthesis for a long time, and immediately stuck his iron hand into the guy's chest. The guy said that it was previously said that the spare sky was over 100 years old. Cheon replied to just assume he was representing the second generation. The guy said to tell him why he hated him so much. Cheon asked with a sneer. He hates it? He doesn't. He just despises firstborns. People like them get everything on a platter because they were born first. And now we have to fix it, and immediately said goodbye to his brother. Cheon said he was talking about Bulmangisa, but he can't forget the adrenaline he got back then. His only regret is that he can't capture 14's heart. It had been a year since he had gotten a new hand, which people had begun to call the madness of the west wind. But that day he realized he was weak and could not capture the heart of his great brother. But after that, he went to see his niece. But suddenly his brother arrived and started defending his daughter. Cheon immediately attacked him. The head told his brother that he was an ill-mannered asshole, but Cheon left right after that through the window and replied that he'll see you next time. Cheon said that if he hadn't paid attention to his cute niece, he would have been in for unnecessary trouble. The old man replied that they would fix the severed part of his arm, then they would remake the prosthesis a bit, and it would be easier for him to control it. Cheon started to smile and said that the old man made him happy. But suddenly a woman came up to him with a box and he asked, "What is it?" The old man replied that it was a material similar to facial skin. It was used to develop a mask. They've just taken a mold of it, and this old woman will now go to make his mask. Here, let him choose the material. Cheon said he's getting more and more excited about him. Let's go with this one. So no one will recognize him under the mask? The old man replied that they would try to make it as comfortable as possible so he could wear it forever without any problems. And from now on, no one would be able to know what he really looked like. Meanwhile, Rin said she wanted to clean up the mess. But how to do that? B asked her, is she about cleaning? Well, there are many ways. If she's strong, she can kick it with her foot. If she's rich, she can hire people to clean her up. If she's talkative, she can morally attack her opponent. And what is she good at? Rin asked with surprise. What can she do? B replied that she did. She probably has something she's good at. But one must find that skill and develop it, and then it will become her strength. Rin wondered at that moment. Did she really know how to do anything? She hadn't done anything in her life, had she? B said to think hard about it, and she had to go to work. And she should go to her parents' house, right? Someone's been waiting for her there for a while. But suddenly a guard came out and B asked her, did she know him? But Rin replied that she didn't really. B told her that when talking to people, let her try to express more precisely what he wants from them, and then they will respond to her in kind. Ri thought hard about those words and told B to go with her, and it would be easier for her that way. But the guard came over and told B to follow them. Their mistress's father wants to communicate with her. B replied that alas, she couldn't make it. She had to go to work. She immediately said goodbye to Rin. The guard said they would tell Chen Yangru that she went with them, and the lady's father really wants to see her. B tells them to let her refuse. She doesn't understand why she has to go to him now. She made a pact with Chen Yangru, not him. She's bound by the terms of the contract, that's the law, and she hopes their lord respects contracts and promises. But suddenly Rin said she didn't either. And let's B make a pact with her. B was surprised and asked what? Rin asked, then she would be able to see her again, right? Or wouldn't she? The guard told the mistress if she realized that such a thing was not called a contract, but a promise. Bai replied that no, that wasn't what was important. If she made a pact, what could she give her in return? Rin replied that when you make a contract, do you have to give something in return? B smiled and replied that yes, it was obligatory. And they decide to do so. Henceforth, if she puts a red ribbon on the window, within 2 days she will definitely come to her. Due to personal circumstances, she unfortunately won't be able to come whenever she wants. And in return, she asks them to grant her 3 wishes. And what they will be, she'll think about it and tell you later. How's that? The guard thought that she didn't seem to know who their mistress was. And the promise sounds like childish pranks. Maybe we should stop them. He doesn't like it. Rin said she agreed. Did they make a pact now? B said yes, they did. The head, after delivering the information, said that he certainly imagined she wasn't an easy one. She turned out to be not only talented, but also brave. The guard said there are some oddities that are suspicious. According to the guard's report, she has very high skills in martial arts. The head said he already realized that when she danced. She looks like a perky little girl, but judging by her dancing, she's much stronger than they can imagine. And he doesn't know if it's good or bad for him. The guard asked what he meant. The head replied that if she were a boy, he would have to find out about her master and choose one of 2 things: entice her to join him or kill her. And if he wasn't a danger, he'd take him in. If he was, he would have to kill him. The guard thought that his words meant that in any case, he did not plan to leave the boy near the mistress. Still, his regret over the child's gender suggests he would be willing to have her under his control. The guard said that unfortunately, I have to remind him that 3 months ago, a female guard almost put Madam in danger. So to be on the safe side, he suggested that we find out about Yunbi. The head said that his daughter already owes her life to her. Since Yunbi isn't a boy, he thinks it won't be nice of him. And he doesn't know for what reason the master sold her to a shot shop, but he thinks he's either a clan receiver or a powerful female master. And let him not forget that this village is run by Ami clan receivers. And if anything, they could be in trouble. When Rin meets with her, have him try to leave fast guards around. Have them keep an eye on them. And judging by the skill, it's unlikely any of them can beat her. But unfortunately, neither he nor anyone else can sit by his daughter. They have too much to do. The guard said that the head was right about everything. The head replied that he was very sorry for him and his family. He still remembers everything as if it were real. At this time, the guard looked at the carpet and saw the body of his brother lying dead in that spot. The head said he would have broken every bone in his body with his own hands. The most frustrating part was that he couldn't even announce to everyone who did it. He wondered how he could tell everyone that the younger brother of the head of the martial artist community was an outlaw nicknamed Western Sky. Then the whole world would turn into a bloody field. The head told the guard that he must see his brother off now, but he, again, could not send him home. And may he forgive him for such a thing, for he has no excuse. The guard said that the most important thing for him now was that he knew who the perpetrator was, especially since it was his decision. He will stay close to him and await his arrival. His last target is surely the head. That's why he belongs here. Not next to his brother's cold corpse, but by his side. He told his brother he would skin the man who killed him, burn his bones to the ground, and would drink his blood for him and would not return home until he had finished him off for good. At that time, the boy's body was brought to the Namgung family. Everyone gathered around him and mourned. But there was a boy on the street. The boy asked Sang Yi, "Is he crying because of his uncle too?" But Yi didn't answer anything and only let a tear fall. The boy said that their uncle loved him and his sister very much. Their father is now looking for their uncle's killer, so let him get a grip. They will study hard and try to be useful to their father. He said he understood everything, and starting tomorrow, he's going to study at Cheonmukakwang. But then his sister came in and said he was a fool. Cheonmukakwang is just a school. To help his father, he has to go to the martial arts community. The sister was telling her brother who she was talking to. She can help her father more than that crybaby. But Yi said she's the crybaby. She cries more than him. The guy said they're both good, and they can help their father together. It's time for them to see their uncle off. They're going with them, aren't they? And since their father couldn't join them, maybe they could at least try to see their uncle off with all the honors. But at this time, Su was walking around the city and enjoying his life. But suddenly he looked at Rin's window and saw the ribbon. Every single day he kept seeing the red ribbons on her window. And every single time he came to her, and comforted her by talking to her. But one such day, he was taking a walk after work and saw a ribbon so big he even liked it. That same night, Rin slept. But suddenly in the night, she woke up and immediately started crying. Raising her head, she immediately looked at her bird's cage. But what she saw with her eyes was not a bird, but something terrible. But she remembered Rin telling B that it was a river fish. Can it be kept in a cage? B replied that even though their catfish was a fish, it had wonderful wings. It replaces its legs with whiskers, uses its fins underwater, and its wings for flight. It is silent because it doesn't chirp and doesn't need to be fed. She agrees that she is unlikely to find such a bird anywhere else. She immediately started laughing after this memory and decided to get up and look at the fish in the cage. The next day, the head saw that her daughter had hung a red ribbon by the window, and he became very curious. The guards at this time saw that the window was getting brighter each day. A stranger might think they were having a wedding. Namgung told the head that if he didn't like it, he would tell B to change the way they communicate, or maybe tell her to visit the lady periodically. The head asked him back, what could he possibly dislike about this place? Let him get it wrong. It was just that his eyes were a little sore from being so brightly colored. The head began to deny everything and said that they should go now. They had too much to do. The guard replied to the head that everything would be as he ordered. The head asked him, maybe telling Rin to hang blue ribbons on the windows when she wanted to see him. How would he like that idea? He could run in quickly just to see them. The guard replied that if there were no blue ribbons, he would feel uncomfortable. Is he willing to do that? The head got angry and asked him what he was carrying. What do you mean there won't be blue ribbons there? His Rin puts so many of those red ones there, he thinks she won't put at least one blue one. The guard told him that he and the lady ate breakfast and dinner together every day, and that sometimes, even during the day he came to see her, she was always with him, so she was unlikely to hang a blue ribbon or give him a flower. The head told him that they were late, they should get going. But the head remembered all through her childhood that she always gave flowers to everyone, even her new pets. But at this time, Sue said that he had his face powdered, his lips painted, his hair done, all done. The makeup is complete, and that's a very good thing. She can go to work now. But suddenly the foreman comes in and tells him that, as he sees it, is he really having fun? Sue immediately covered himself with his hands and told him what he allows himself. He walks into a girl's room without knocking. How tactless he is. The master asked, a girl? He's a boy, Sue answered him. He told him to be a real girl, and now he's changing his word? The master thought a moment and replied that his cunning so-and-so called for punishment, but his skill in making arguments made him look more and more like a girl. What he can't figure out is that he's always whining about not wanting to work in a liquor store, and now for some reason he thinks he's starting to like it. And it turns out that this kid is hiding something from him and trying not to show it. Sue realized at once that the old man was smart. Sue asked him if he wanted him to weep constantly every day because of the evil mastermind who sold him to a liquor store for money. If he was destined for such a fate, she decided to find joy at least in the fact that his body was not so fatigued this day. But how dare he insult a fragile creature like him? He is too cruel. The master was surprised and replied that he even got goosebumps. Let him stop his trickery. Maybe he should go to work. He was beginning to lose his patience. Sue realized that today, once again, the poor frail creature was going to work barefoot with a heavy musical instrument on her back to earn money for a drunken old man. But suddenly someone threw a rock at his head and said, maybe she could go silently. She's in the woods. She could be attacked by predators. Sue was surprised that he was 100 paces away from the house. And then he got him. He's so cruel. It's a ghost, definitely a ghost. But at Mount Hen, the warriors said that if it wasn't a ghost, there was no way to explain how such a thing happened. This village was Namjokbu's hideout. It's strange that they were killed so easily, and now they must try to find the evidence. The warriors said the whole place burned down. I don't know how they could have burned such a large area. What do they think? The second warrior replied that even if they poured oil all over the place, it was impossible for it to warm up that quickly. Certainly not gunpowder, or they would have found his body. And he thinks it's Sogol acid. The warrior asked with surprise, Sogol acid? Is he talking about that legendary powder, 1 cup of which can kill 5 or 6 ambulances? They say no one knows how to make it. The second warrior replied that yes, it was about him. Even for 10 gold coins on the black market, it was very hard to buy. but for destroying evidence, it's just right. The warrior said understandably, indoors it wouldn't need as much, but outdoors would require quite a bit of powder. Why waste such a fortune? The second warrior said that if you mix this powder with flour and set it on fire, the range increases. The warrior replied that it was the first time he had heard of it. The second warrior said, right. Not many people know that. He just found out about it recently himself. And given the radius of the fire, he thinks it took somewhere around 48 liters of Solgal acid here. The warrior asked, is it very much? Who would spend so much to wipe out the Namjukbu clan? The second warrior replied that given the wealth and power, there were only 3 communities that could do this. The first was Machangak, and the second was the Black Heavenly Warriors. But if you remember who Cheonhak of Namjokbu is, the 2 communities have no motive. The warrior said that they do. If you think back to what Namjokbu is, those 2, on the contrary, showed their respect to him. Maybe, of course, someone wanted to eliminate them. And does he mean heavenly spirit? But the second warrior said not to yell. They're just here to investigate. Let their master decide the verdict. But suddenly a servant came and told the commander that they had a report. Several human bones have been found. Everything is well disguised, of course, but it seems to him that the murder was committed by one man. The commander turned around in surprise and asked, one man? The warrior replied that yes, one blade was plain. The other was very thin like paper. He thought it was a master wielding a thunderbolt sword. But at this time at sea, the guy who destroyed everyone in his path was sitting in a ship looking at the beauties. The head got the information and said that it turns out that cunning Namjukbu's hideout was destroyed by one person. The guard said it was unlikely. He thinks it was one killer and a dozen of his henchmen. The report says the village was large. The head said his eyes didn't see the report. Have him come into the room immediately. They were in a hurry. They came here. But why? It's unclear. Is it so hard to come in instead of talking to the wall? The guard asked, the head of the martial artist community, has he forgotten who they are? They are members of the White Shadow group. They even have shadows, so they are also called the Shadowless Squad. He is their leader after all. He can't show them his face. That would be reckless of him. But he's the leader of the martial arts community. He should have the patience. The head told Namgung-san he will give him the letter, have him send it to the Chunghong League headquarters. It seems like they are funding the bestiary squad too much, and he thinks he needs to cut the budget, wasted on their supervisor. Namgung responded that he is listening, but suddenly someone came from behind the door and said he was coming in. The man said for once they should try to enter his position. He's the leader of the Shadowless Squad, and they need to see his face all the time. The leader told him to stop talking. Tell him to get his ass over here. The head said to give him the report he spoke of there. He wishes to see it. Right, that he lacked patience, so he would rather read it all himself. The man replied that if it was about the report, but he had it right here, and tapped his head with his hands. The head said to send a letter immediately to the Zhongshan League headquarters, ordering them to fine him an amount equal to 1 year's salary. The man said he couldn't read it anyway. This report is coded, and he could just tell him the conclusion. The man said that the heavenly spirit people dragged themselves to Namjokmu's hideout. One of them killed everyone, and the rest covered their tracks. The head asked in surprise, heavenly spirit people? The man replied that yes. Only 3 factions could burn down a village with an explosion. They were the Machong Sak, the Black Heavenly Warrior community, and the Heavenly Spirit people. And given that John Huck of Jokmu was disliked only by them, he was popular in the Dark Circle, he agreed. He was a friend to the Machong Sak faction and a loyal subject to the Black Heaven Warriors. The head asked if he might have been killed in their sign of justice. The man replied that he hadn't killed him. His boys had been busy searching the western skies lately. They didn't have time to think about such a pathetic person. Maybe he killed him quietly. The head replied that no. The man said it was unlikely that any of them were then. When crimes were severe, he could agree. People of heavenly spirit were always involved. Does he remember the massacre at Machongsak 6 months ago? That time, it was at the hands of the heir of the Black Heaven Warrior community. He thinks this case has something to do with him. The head asked, is he referring to that mass murder that was committed by the grandson of the Musinma family, Kalhai Bon? The man said yes. Did he know that the granddaughter that John Hawk of Namjokmu was fond of was engaged to that Kalhai Bon? At that point, he was seen as a prince. Everyone had read that he was going to be the main character in the Black Warrior world. And this prince during the training suddenly changes and brutally kills everyone he was training with. And they can't believe it themselves. He thinks the sly John Huck missed it. Of course he didn't. He thought there was a conspiracy here, and he tried to investigate it himself. The head asked if it was Mahongsak's men or the relatives of the victims who eliminated him then. The man replied that if it was Mahongsak's people, they would first try to free the head's son from prison. And the relatives of the victims would want to punish Jong Hak because he is investigating in favor of the killer of Kal Hiebong. They would have killed the head of Mahongsak in the first place. The head asked, then why does he think it was heavenly spirit people? Where is the motive? The man replied that he thought it was definitely them. And because he has a feeling, motive, it doesn't matter, because his hunch has never failed him. The head thought and said that he seemed bored with life. Now he was going to give him a kicking. The man replied that no, there was some motive there. Let him think for himself. First the massacre at Machongsak, then the massacre at Namjakmu. And one must consider what will happen as a result. There will be a rift between the Machongsak and the Black Celestial Warrior community. If they're not involved, who else would benefit? Only the Celestial Spirit. The head said that although he was right, the firstborn of the head of the Black Heavenly Warrior Community chapter had committed a brutal massacre in Machongsak. And John Hak of Namjokmu, who tried to exonerate him and was leading the investigation against Mahongsak, was killed by someone. The man replied that there was a redistribution of power within their clan. Before the incident, the son of the head of the Black Heaven Warrior community, Kal Hiebong, was considered the official heir of Machongsak. And now the heir of Mahongsak is the son of the current head of Mahongsak. He is not the firstborn, but everyone respects and recognizes him as the eldest son. And his name is Bai, and it's said that his training mates called him just a second son. Compared to the famous Kal Haibong or his brother Kal Hai Ren, he didn't stand out much, so there's not much information yet. They say he didn't go out in public for 6 months before that incident, so there are no survivors who have seen his face now. In short, after the proclamation of the heir, they've had internal upheavals. They'll see what happens next. Now from Makongsak, they have ordered him to go home. He thinks he will be back soon, and then we will see. At this time, on the Namgung family's property, the guy was asked what he was considering there. The guy replied that someone had messed up the fence. Who did it? The man replied that it must be some grumpy person. Let him leave it. They'll fix it soon. No need to take it to heart. And already the tea is getting cold. The guy started laughing and replied that he was on his way. He threw the stones he found in the wall and immediately threw them aside. But Rin was telling B at this time that it was very dangerous. Let her be more careful. B immediately used her techniques and easily climbed through the window. B told Rin that she welcomed her, and she seemed to scare her. She tried to run over as fast as she could, and when she saw her, she immediately jumped up without even thinking that he might scare her. Rin replied that there wasn't even such a thing. It's just her eyes, they look a lot like diamonds. But B realized what she was talking about and said it was kind of a side effect, and she hoped someday she can get her color back. And in B's head, she hoped it would happen soon. Rin saw that she was getting uncomfortable and asked, was she uncomfortable? Rin apologized with surprised eyes and said it must have been unpleasant. She must have thought she was ogling her. B didn't expect that and asked her what she thought she was looking at her for. What on earth was she saying? Rin replied that of course it could be uncomfortable when people complimented her, and at the same time she glares at her. She too had just said a compliment and continued to look at her, and that was why. But suddenly B stopped her. B said she understood what she meant. She doesn't think Rin can get as sweaty, dirty, and ugly as those people, even if they run over the mountain where she lives billions of times. And for complimenting her, and she's thanking her now. She did the right thing. Rin replied that she wasn't for that. B really is beautiful. B thanked her and said that she thought she was the one who was prettier on the contrary. Let them show her their face. And even the wounds on her face are gone. She turns out to be beautiful too. Rin blushed at this moment and felt her hand warm. B said there is a flaw in the fact that she doesn't seem fully recovered, especially her exhausted eyes, also her hair, and even her bluish skin. B asked her if she was bored being in a box all the time. She wouldn't last 4 days. There are lots of interesting things to do outside. Rin replied that she didn't know, didn't think much about it. There are a lot of people on the street, Bei asked. Is she scared to leave the room because there are a lot of people outside? Bea remembered that she'd said she'd been hit on by men all the time, and it still seemed hard for her to look at them. Bea asked her, "What if we went to a place where there was no one?" Rin asked, "Is there such a place?" Bea replied that of course, about 15 minutes by carriage and she was already at a deserted place. Would she like to show her where it is? And go to where she lives, Mount Ami. How would she like that? They'll have a lot of fun. Rin asked him, to Mount Ami? Bea replied that yes. She just has some free time tomorrow. She worked a few days in advance yesterday. But at work, Smith said they all know he's a man. Make him stop acting like it. Sue asked, does he think everyone realizes that? He really doesn't. He's trying to protect his ego, so the way he would be kind will be tolerated. Smith asked in surprise, wondering if he might be having those very days. In boys at puberty, men's egos kick into overdrive. Sue asked, what does that mean? There's nothing wrong with his body. The blacksmith said that it seems like it's time for him to take care of his psychological state. Since he finished the big orders today, he thinks there won't be any more work for 10 days. So have him take a day off for those days. Sue said that instead of his psychological state, it would be better to take care of his earnings. He has one old fox living at home that needs to be fed. If he loses his earnings because of his vacation, he will probably come here. Smith replied that he would give him a paid vacation, so he begs during this time to find a friend or dream of something. Let him kill the evil demon that sits in his soul. Bea told her that she had tomorrow off, so they would go for a walk on the mountain. There are no famous landmarks there, of course, but there is plenty to see. But suddenly Rin replied that she didn't. But Father B was surprised and asked what she was saying about that gentleman. In his head now, he realized that that old man was her father after all. I mean, he looks 100 years old, weird. But although the main thing is that he's kind and resembles more of a concerned invalid than a villain, B said that yes, he would definitely be worried about her. But doesn't she think he'll worry more if she's in the room all the time? Parents are the kind of people who worry about their kids anyway. Rin asked with surprise, yes? B replied that it's like that. So she suggests that she should choose the option she likes better herself. Going to the mountains or sitting in her room? Rin asked. She says there aren't many people there? B replied that yes. You can go by carriage first and then walk. There are no people there. In the place where she lives, she really never saw anyone. Rin asked. Her house? Her family must be living there? B asked with surprise. Family? But at home, she has a lazy master lying around all the time, and her parents died early. At that moment, Rin visualized this picture of how she experienced this life without her parents. Rin said she wants to go to the mountain with her. She even wants to go very much. B was surprised and asked, really? The girl replied that it was right. Late at night, the girl was telling the boyfriend that she had to go on the road tomorrow. Why is he still awake? Let him go to bed. The guy replied that he wanted to watch her fall asleep. He won't be able to see her for a few days, so he wants to watch her all night. The girl was greatly surprised and asked, what is he saying? She asked Sika, does he want to seduce her? Sik replied that she thought she was doing just that, but he didn't care. Let it be as she wanted it to be. The girl said that actually she's trying to complain. And why is her father only calling for her? Sik replied that the oldest of the Namjokmu was her father's friend. It's imperative to find out who the culprit is, and her father was right not to include him in the investigation team. He's from Cheon Mokakwan. The girl got angry and asked, what do you mean you did it right? It doesn't matter from where, whether it's from Cheon Muhakwang or not. She's her person now, so she's on her side. Sik said she was right about everything. The girl lay on top of him and replied to ask him to ask her, doesn't he regret staying in Machongsak because he married her? Sik replied that the best thing that had happened to him in this life was marriage with her. The girl immediately let out a tear when she heard those words. The girl asked, he's obviously trying to seduce her now, right? Sik replied that so be it. The girl said she had to get up so early tomorrow, but let it be as he wanted. But Sik didn't leave it at that and continued. In the morning, the girl told him that she would be back quickly and let him wait for her in peace and no need to be sick. If he went out with anyone, she would kill him. Sik started laughing and replied that he had one, so let him ride in peace and try not to get sick. Sik told the servants that he would be in his room until his wife arrived. and asked him not to be disturbed with eating, cleaning, or any other business. And he asked them not to come in until he called. But in town, B came to the girl and said she didn't know how to tell her. And she had, of course, prepared well. Rin asked if they should have prepared something like a sun umbrella after all. B replied that no, the most necessary thing for them is in her hand. And the mountain they are going to is no place for a girl who looks like an angel after all. On the way to the mountain, she began to run as fast as she could. B was surprised and said, her breathing quickening again, "Is Rin okay?" The girl at this time was trying to climb up the mountain and even picked up a stick. B said that there was just a little more to go. Climbing up the mountain, she had already prepared everything in advance and made them a picnic. B cheered hard and shouted to Rin that she was almost there. One more step, and she is very beautiful. Rin was able to overcome the obstacle, and B said congratulations to her. But the guard was watching them the whole time and wondered why they had to overdo it like that, and he hopes she's okay. An hour had already passed, calling as he did to their pigeons to show them where he was now, and at once he whistled into his pigeon. He realized that human ears could not hear the sound of this flute, so he could not know if the pigeons heard it or not. He would try again, just in case. He didn't stop and continued whistling, but B couldn't take it. Rin asked her what was wrong with her. Did her ears hurt? B replied that everything was fine. It was just the sound of the wind, a little annoying. She knew right away that they were being followed, and she wished he would whistle more quietly. Before leaving the house, B had told the guards that Rin was afraid of people, so she had specifically chosen a mountain as the place to walk, not a crowded place, and here they were. Namgung said that their master originally wanted dozens of their guards to go with them. Since they didn't like it, they had a cut-down version of that in front of them, him and 3 others. B said, do they know that with that outfit, not only Rin would be afraid of them, but other people as well? They looked more like a group of assassins. B suggested that when they traveled by carriage, they could all follow them. But when they would go up the mountains, let someone follow them alone. And she asked the others to wait at a distance and join in if necessary. It's deserted where they'll be going, especially since Rin will be wearing men's clothes, so she doesn't think there's anything to worry about. Namgung replied that he thought she was wrong. Their lady's beauty could hardly be covered by men's clothes. Suddenly, Rin came out and said she was ready. Rin hid behind the house and said there were a lot of people around her. B asked him if he heard. Rin can't even come out here because of them. Namgung replied that then he would follow them, and the others will walk at a distance. They would communicate with each other with pigeons. B said it was a good option, but I wish someone else would go after them. Not him for sure. His face is very angry. It feels like he could easily attack innocent people. He's too scary for Rin. B immediately looked around and said, here he is going to go with them. He has a cute face and she thinks Rin won't be scared. But at that time, the others were sitting in the bushes, saying that that guy would be of no use. If anything, he wouldn't even last half an hour. Namgung hoped he had the sense to at least blow the flute periodically, and hoped that if anything happened, B could protect their mistress. Suddenly, the warrior said it was signal time. The pigeon immediately heard it, and Namgung told the pigeon to fly. B was massaging mistress at this time and asked how she was doing. Rin was completely relaxed and replied that it was fine, and she liked it. B said that was great and said it was time for yum yum. Rin was very surprised and asked, yum? The guard heard everything and couldn't understand what they were saying, but they seemed to understand each other, and he hopes that soon their boys will get there. The guard didn't even take his eyes off them and saw even them rising, and it seemed to him that they were going somewhere again. B asked her how she was doing. Rin got very excited and replied that she was fine. B said that was good and now the road would be smooth and thought she wouldn't have a hard time traveling. Rin asked her, is this a smooth road? B replied that it is. She walks on this road when she feels bad. Normally she walks on the other one. Rin decided to ask her how she ended up in a place like this. But B interrupted her saying that she wanted to probably ask her why she lived in a place like this, and it's because Master lives here. B said that if you exclude the fact that she has to go to the waterfall several times a day to fetch water, or having to go to the market, which is dozens of kilometers away, or even have to encounter wild animals. But it's very nice here. There is beautiful nature, quiet all around, no taxes. Rin asked if she could touch her. B replied that yes, of course. But suddenly she realized the question and asked, Rin, what did she ask? Rin put her hand on her face and said warmly, "And yet she is alive." B asked, "Did the girl really think she was a ghost?" Rin replied, "Just a little bit. She has unusual eyes that look like diamonds. She looks like a flying angel." B asked her where she had seen a ghost who was constantly making money all day long. "She's more like a ghost. She sits in her room all day long. She needs to work out. And sports are a lot of fun and a lot of fun. And maybe they could start practicing." But by the look on Rin's face, she wasn't even dreaming of anything like that. On the way, B said what she hoped was Rin used to walking through the forest yet. The girl was tired and replied that she wasn't at all. B asked if she was still having a hard time. She needs to get more exercise, and she suggests that every time they see each other, they take a walk on that mountain. How does she feel about that? But Rin froze at that moment and thought of what to answer. But B started laughing and said it was a joke. Rin was surprised and asked if it was a joke. B choked and replied that she didn't even know. Her face changed so much. She's so excited to make fun of her. Suddenly, she began to realize why Master delivered her all the time. He was enjoying it, and now she was becoming like the Master. And if you keep this up, it might become a habit. Rin told her that her face was so scary right now. But B realized that in front of a fragile girl like Rin, he shouldn't act like that. He should put such scary thoughts to rest. B said that when she builds up her muscles a little, she will be able to climb this high with ease. She can even walk here now with her eyes closed. Rin asked her, "Really?" B replied that it's over. Let her watch it. Immediately, she began to demonstrate her abilities. Rin was really scared at that moment and asked her to be more careful. B suddenly stepped on a rock and couldn't hold on and immediately fell face down on the ground. Rin asked if she was okay. B pretended she was fine and asked where that rock had come from and let the stone show its true face. But Rin couldn't help herself and started laughing at her. But B said that it wasn't nice. She's in pain and she dares to laugh at her? But Rin again couldn't stop and kept laughing all the way. Suddenly, B saw an eagle and said that it was the master of this mountain. And there, where they are now heading, lives their king. Soon all their difficulties will be over. Just a little while and she will show her indescribable beauty. She even makes her a promise. Rin was surprised and said he was so beautiful. B replied that the sky this side of the mountain is under the dominion of that white falcon. She always flies with the wind, not even catching her. Rin noticed that he's not like her, who's always sitting in a room. He's a free spirit, and she too dreams of being free like him. Suddenly, she said he flew away. B told her not to be upset. Where they are going, their king lives, so they can still meet him. B thought about it and said they're going to fly now. Pretty soon there will be a good road, and she promises it will show her an extraordinary place of indescribable beauty. But on the way out, B stopped and said it was strange. It's too quiet, and supposedly, as she thinks, there's something wrong here. So I decided to listen. Closing her eyes, she started to hear the sound of the wind, the sound of the water. There's an uncle stomping around. The sounds are all audible, but why does it feel like she's missing something? All of a sudden, B said, there are no animal sounds. She couldn't hear any birds. But raising his head, he saw actually a bird that was flying. B told Rin that she was suggesting that she not go any further today and go home. He didn't know what it was exactly, that something alarmed him. He couldn't put Rin in danger. Rin asked him, "Home? Is the nest of that white falcon far away?" B replied that no, not far at all, just beyond that forest. It was just that something was bothering her. Rin took her hand and told her to just take one look at the white falcon then, and home. Can't we do that? B realized that she really liked that white falcon a lot. She didn't take the initiative that often, and she was sure she would be very upset if she turned her down. B says she doesn't know, but since she insists, and considering they have bodyguards following them, she hopes they'll be okay. So they decided to go. After removing the bush, B said that this is where the white falcon lives. There is a white falcon's nest in that tree over there, and that nest is a royal nest. The king's nest asked Rin with surprise. B said that they seem to have had babies. Does she hear the chirping? Rin replied that she could hear everything. Rin said they are little white falcons. B replied that she would have to come here again to watch them grow. B said that she was actually planning to take her there, right behind those rocks. That's where the rainbow waterfall is. Does she want to go through? Rin asked, "Rainbow waterfall?" B said yes. There are 6 watercourses flowing behind those rocks. They combine into one big waterfall that creates a beautiful rainbow. Bee asked Rin if she had ever touched a rainbow with her hands. Suddenly, Falcon appeared above them and started shouting. Bee immediately realized that things were bad and took Rin under her wing to protect her. She was really scared, but Bee told her to be quiet. But suddenly a white snake appeared behind the mountain. It's very dangerous and poisonous. As quietly as possible so that he doesn't see them, and you have to walk back slowly. Suddenly Bee said that now it made sense to her why she was here, decided to fight the white falcon. But Bee saw the guard who was watching them come in. She immediately showed her hand to tell him not to do anything. Bee said she wasn't interested in them, so they wouldn't provoke them. They immediately hid behind the rock. But the guard at this time thought to call their men. Should he go up to Madam? But suddenly she saw the blood spill and Rin said, "What seems like the white falcon is losing." Bee said, "No, the falcon has wings, it can't lose. It's different here. He is trying to protect his cubs who are now in the nest. And so the white snake came here to kill baby falcons to breed." Rin asked if he wanted to kill baby falcons. Bee replied that the earth crawls on the ground, it can't fly, so it can't defeat the falcon. For the white snake, the white falcon is the most hated enemy, so it doesn't want those to breed. And it's a shame there's no male now. One poor female is struggling. But suddenly Bee saw the second falcon and said that the male had returned. Rin was happy and said that was very good. The male immediately pounced on the snake without fear, and with his beaks began to chisel at the snake's eyes. Rin saw this and became very frightened and started to clam up. She asked Bee why the white falcon. Bee said he tried to go back to the nest but couldn't get away from the snake. Suddenly she left Rin and said she had to go away for a while. But everything flashed before Bee's eyes. He saw everything and realized that once again everyone was dying around him. But a full, solid, crumbling earth. Everyone who dies becomes part of this earth. And everyone dies in this life and becomes earth. But suddenly he decided he wanted to stop it. He saw the snake slowly begin to walk up the tree and up to the chicks. And Bee decided that he wanted to stop the death. And before him, no one and nothing else would die. Bee said for Rin to let him go away for a while, and whatever happens, let him sit quietly without making a sound. But Rin was very scared for her and realized what she wanted to do. Bee immediately jumped out and picked up a rock. Throwing it right at the snake told it to stop. He was so accurate that he hit the snake's head with his stone. Sue rejoiced and said that he had hit it right on the spot. But Sue saw that things were bad and the male was losing. He immediately realized that he had to get him the Sword of Thunder. But he saw that he wouldn't make it in time. She was too fast. Rin at this time saw everything and got scared. But the guardian decided he had to call their men. Sue wasn't scared of anything and was telling the snake to distract him. But suddenly he heard the guard blowing the flute. But Sue tried to stop him because the snake wasn't allowed to go there. He tried to keep up with it so it wouldn't hurt Rin. Sue immediately looked at Rin and saw that she was completely alive. And he saw that she had eaten the guard who blew into the flute. Bee told Rin that he had called for help. People will be coming here soon. Let her wait here. And don't let her make a sound under any circumstances. Sue realized that the guards would run through that clearing. He thinks they will find her. So would tell her to run, but she doesn't know the way and might get lost. That's even more dangerous. And now he has to get this thing's attention before the guards come running. But Sue saw the snake heading straight for them. And if he steps away now, Rin will die. He has to stop that thing here, so he decided to use Bunreisu's technique. Sue saw that the snake didn't even stop, and after colliding with it head-on, he flew back to the tree and gained more speed to attack. The snake just stood still at that time, and Sue's knife didn't even hurt him and flew back. But in the same second, he felt sick and started spitting blood. Sue realized that he had purposely made a backward turn to reduce the force of the impact, but still his internal organs seemed to be torn apart. But Sue saw that this thing was approaching them again. If he used Bunreisu's technique once more, he would definitely fail. But Sue realized that he couldn't let himself be eaten by some snake. He wants to live a little longer. What this old master does all the time is mock him. He can't end his life like this. And suddenly he had removed all the rings from his limbs and was willing to risk everything to destroy her. Sue decided to remember at this moment what Master does at times like this. Suddenly, he remembered Master saying that he didn't know what he had eaten, but his inner strength had increased greatly. Master said that he still doesn't know how to use the sword, the Thunder Slash. He's frustrated by his stupidity. The master had told him that from today he would be practicing throwing 4 daggers at once. He's so stupid. Su asked the master, is it hard for him to praise him? Or if he praised him, would he have a heart attack? Su said that he had learned to throw 2 thunder-striking swords at the same time, and he had learned to throw them so that the 2 swords made a turn in the air. And everything he told him to do, he did. And he tells him, a young, gifted creature, that he doesn't know how to wield a sword of slashing thunder. But the master was surprised and asked, he didn't think that what he was holding in his hands now was a sword of slashing thunder, did he? Su was surprised and asked, then what is it? Isn't it a thunder-slashing sword? But master just looked at him and didn't even remove his gaze. Su didn't know where to go and asked what. He had said when they gave him these daggers that he was going to learn how to wield the thunder-striking sword. The master shouted and said he was a brat and told him to come to him immediately, and he raised his dagger and asked him if he could see. The master decided to show him how to do it. So he threw the dagger straight into the tree and then used the technique of the Jacques descendant. The master showed him everything thoroughly and asked him if he understood everything. This is the true sword of thunder. In order to wield this thunder-striking sword, he would first need to learn how to wield 10 daggers at once. Did he understand everything? But Su didn't understand anything and asked what. But the master replied that he was a real fool. Let him look at the characters on the field. And it's people like him who think they already know how to do something that get into trouble. He's going to tell him one universal method for all occasions. Let him listen and learn it. The master said that if a man stronger than him got in his way, he should stay away from him. Did he understand? And if he's in a situation where he can't get away from it, then let him turn around and start running away with all his legs. Su answered him then, what kind of a way is that? The master asked, what was he thinking? The one who is weaker is the one who runs away. He even using Narensain's technique can destroy the rock. He thinks he has another option. But Su told him not to lie. If it wasn't for those heavy bracelets, he could have shattered the rock with that dagger alone. But the master looked at him and told him not to even think of doing that. Not only would it suppress his power, but it would also protect him. If he takes off those bracelets and uses his power to the max, his still growing body won't be able to take it, and he will explode from the inside out. Let him remember that. There is no way he can't use his power to the maximum yet. But Su said that he understood that, but he thought that if he didn't use his strength to the maximum now, he wouldn't have the next time. And then Su threw out the bracelets and said that he had been there, and decided to put it all on the line for the final blow. But the snake wasn't even scared of anything, and was on its way to eat him. But Su said that there would be no next time. He would fight as long as his legs would stand. Su realized that he would imagine that it was not a snake, but a master, and try to concentrate his strength. That small, bloodthirsty, cunning, greedy, covetous, two-faced master. Su threw his sword straight at the snake's head, and when he saw its entire body begin to collapse, he realized that he had hit the bullseye. But Su didn't want to give up and realized that he needed just a little more. He had to hold out. So he immediately attacked the snake again. Su had nothing to lose. He pounced on it and decided to use his last strike. And when the dagger collided, the snake died. The snake started to get angry and destroy everything in front of it. But Su had time to run away and realized that he almost got caught in its tail. And it was a good thing he had moved beforehand. And he hopes that this time he will die. Yet his body has completely dried up and he has no more strength left to fight. He immediately laid down and realized that just a little more, and he wouldn't have been able to stand. Rin saw Bee fall and immediately ran over to her. Rin asked her if she was okay. Is she in pain? And could she lie down for a while? Bee replied that she thought she'd be fine. How's Rin doing? Rin told her to forgive her. If she obeyed her and went home, everyone would be safe. Bee was surprised and asked what. Bee said she was so kind. If she were in her place, she would be angry and say why they brought her to the mountain, why she climbed up to the white snake. She's the one who should apologize. To her and to that guard, Rin replied that she was just trying to save the white falcon. Rin realized that if she wasn't so worthless, Yun Bi wouldn't have hurt herself. No one would have followed her to protect her, and no one would have died. Bi asked, what about the little white falcons? They need to check on them to see what is wrong with them. But suddenly Rin saw her hand and asked what was wrong with her hand. Isn't it hurting her? Bi replied that it was nothing special. Rin said she wasn't in any pain. so she's going to see the little white falcons herself. B said they'd go together. She didn't hurt that badly. He inwardly realized that his body was dying and he was in a lot of pain. B said she just wanted to watch too. Yeah, and she doesn't want to be around this carcass. But suddenly, all of a sudden, the snake started moving and wanted to attack them. But B saw it coming and pushed Rin to the side. Rin didn't realize what had even happened. But seeing that the snake was still alive, she was very scared for it. The snake was only aimed at B. She didn't have time to react and the snake hurt her shoulder. But B realized he should have killed her like that and cut her head open. But then he attacked him with a knife right in the head. B was completely exhausted and didn't even have the strength to land calmly on the ground and had to collapse. Rin didn't leave her alone and immediately ran up to her. She started crying because B had hurt herself and saved her at the cost of her life. But suddenly Rin looked back and saw a snake that was behind her, aiming to eat them. Rin pushed B and realized that she couldn't let it eat Yun B. But suddenly she turned around and saw some old man starting to fight with a snake. The master didn't even give the snake a chance and began to abuse him as he wished. He didn't even make any effort and fought with his bare hands. But suddenly the master said, what a stupid student he was. He told him to stay out of the way. Why did he go after her? He had broken all his legs and now he would know his place. But Rin didn't understand anything and just cried. Rin fully realized that this person was looking at Bai. Master was telling Sue that he had decided to pretend to be dead. Have him get up immediately before he gets kicked by him. But Rin immediately ran up to her and told the old man not to dare to hit Yen B. Let him leave immediately. The master was surprised and immediately tore off Sue's clothes where his wound was. He immediately examined it and saw severe lacerations. They looked at her wounds and both of them were silent. But at that time the guards ran after the pigeon and the commander said that the sound was coming from there. The commander was pretty pissed and thought they had come almost immediately after the signal, and he hoped they weren't too late. But suddenly the guards saw that the old man was holding a snake in his arms. They immediately thought it was very strange. Sick was sitting at home at this time, staring at the bare walls. But before he left, he took the sheet in front of him and still hadn't even written anything. But on leaving the room, he left the door open, and his fox was blown outside by a strong wind and caught right in the downpour. Namgung originally thought that that old man wanted to harm Madam with that big snake, so immediately he decided to take action against him. But as he assumed an attacking posture, he sensed something amiss. The old man reached his hand out and flicked it lightly. He swiped as if he wanted to push the fly away. The movement was neither defense nor attack. A person who wanted to practice martial arts would not have made such a move in such a situation. At that moment, he realized that he was not dangerous and there was no need to attack him. The head asked him, he that an experienced warrior, and so he was probably able to stop in time, while the others were unlikely to be able to, right? And this innocent old man must have killed. Why did his boys get hurt so badly? Namgung replied that was the point. The movement of his hand, reminiscent of scaring away a fly, made them all fly away. There was obviously no malice in it, but the force was so great that they simply couldn't resist. The head said, what an interesting technique. With a single movement that resembled scaring away a fly, he was able to unleash such power. Namgung said that by opening the 5 fingers or closing them, the force should come from the palm of the hand. Even if you clench it into a fist, the force will still come from the palm of the hand, not from the outside of the palm. The head said that he thought this old man was a strong warrior, since they were able to fly away from such a simple movement. Did he carry a sword or any other weapon? Namgung replied that he might have been hiding something under his clothes, but in general, he didn't notice anything on him. The head asked him if he had time to see what his walking technique was. Namgung replied that when he, after flying off, stood up and looked at him, he had already drunk Yen B with the snake's blood. Right, he literally lost sight of him for a couple of seconds, and in that time, he had managed to drag the big snake over to B and drink the blood from the carcass. And he fed this blood to B because it was necessary to neutralize the snake's venom. It seems that she was badly injured trying to protect her mistress. But after a while, he realized the whole situation. He told the old man that he apologized to him for their actions. They'll try to cure B. And he tried to apologize, but without a word, he stood up and turned around, and in an instant, he was gone. Rin started crying and asking where he was taking B. And then Madam's condition was also critical, so they couldn't follow this old man. Rin said that it seemed like they wouldn't be able to catch up with Unbi. She fell to her knees and started crying. The head said he understood, and Namgung was right not to follow him. They could have gotten hurt even more. And he is most likely the master for B. His disciple did a good deed, and at the critical moment, instead of thanking him, they tried to attack him. And it seems he now owes them both for saving his daughter. Namgung apologized and replied to the head to forgive him. It was all his fault. The head said no. Thanks to him, it just ended right there. And this old man must be very angry. Maybe send a famous healer or gift some good medicines. I wonder if he would accept. He thinks that's where they live. Let him try to find it first. He'll just have to be careful. And if he left without even saying hello, he thinks the master doesn't like people and probably lives somewhere deserted. Judging from the ease with which he lifted that huge snake. Yes, considering the strength coming from his arms and that incredible walking technique, he must be a strong warrior. And even if we remember B's unusual hand movements and her amazing walking technique, not even taking into account the trinkets on her hands and feet that made no sound, he's definitely her master. And frankly, he had no way of understanding why her master had decided to send such a young creature to the drinking room. And thinks she has made good money in the meantime. But they still live on the mountain, closed off from people. Sack and money are not the main thing. The main thing is information and experience. He wanted her to learn how to get the information she needed on her own, and to build up experience in dealing with various messes. The goats in the drink shop were full of them. Of course he doesn't know. Maybe it's necessary for further testing of his student, or maybe he needs the information himself. In short, you shouldn't provoke him. For strong warriors like this old man, the body itself is a weapon, so one should probably be careful with him. This girl could be his personal servant or something else. Since he lives closed off from people, have him try not to get too close to where he lives. You just need to know roughly where they are. But Namgung recalled the moments in his head, and to him the old man didn't seem like a pervert. But the head was right about that, and answered him that he had ordered and understood. The head asked as he said, "Was the name of that guard Wan Il?" And he was sorry that it was impossible to find his body. He would like to personally convey his condolences to his family. Let him tell them how he was doing. Namgung replied that he had an old mother and an older brother, but a few years ago, as far as he had heard, they had both died in an epidemic. He asked the head, "Does the lady still blame herself?" The head thought about it and said yes, but then changed his mind and answered that no. After all, her condition was hard to convey with one phrase, "blame yourself." He didn't even know that such a small body could hold so many tears. She's crying so hard she's sure she's going to pass out soon. And he thinks, and now she is grieving. At this time, Namgung remembered that in the forest, a nest fell to the ground and broke. Only one bird survived and the rest died. Rin realized that now all she had left was this bird. She must save it. But when she saw the fish in the cage, she immediately remembered the moments with B, how much fun and joy they had. Rin kept telling herself that it was all because of her. But at the same time, Sue was lying at home and heard the master yelling at him and calling him names. In his mind, Sue thought, who is he hearing? Could it really be the master? The master was telling him to only look at himself. Did he think he was able to match such a monster? And he's going to break his legs to keep him out of the way. Sue told him that his student was about to die. Do you have to see off the last moments of life with a scolding? But he's sorry too. And if he could come back, and from now on he would be sure to check the corpse for signs of life. The master said he was an asshole and told him to wake up. He can't die that easily. Let him not dare to die. Sue was surprised and asked, is he crying because of him? Then why did he treat him so badly? The master got angry and said he was an ill-mannered infestation. Is he going to die without his permission? He still has a lot of things left to accomplish. Sue was surprised and said that he thought the master was grieving, and now it was up to him to decide when he would die. Of course, he wasn't planning on it now, but he can't sign anything anymore. And he hoped she was all right. Sue said honestly he didn't want to lose her. Or maybe he could ask Master. But Master told him that he was an ungrateful boy. Let him get to work now. The master said that if he drops out, he'll be after him in a heartbeat. He'll get him a job in hell too. But Sue said he didn't have to. The master said that's where he was going. He'd be a slave for another 300,000 years. And he won't say it again. If he wakes up now, he'll make him work 30,000 years for every 7 minutes. But suddenly Su came to his senses and slowly opened his eyes. Master asked, "Did the boy come to his senses?" Master, after defeating the snake, shouted at Su to wake up immediately. He can't die that easily. The master decided to give him a compress on his back to prevent his organs from inflaming. So he started hitting him on his back. But Su was screaming at this time that he was being killed. How can he beat his wounds so mercilessly? He wants to kill the only disciple he has in this world. And the master answered him that he was caught, and he knew Su was faking it. The master got very angry and said he was an ill-mannered bastard. Is he going to die without destroying him? He still has a lot left to do, doesn't he? The master left his apprentice to rest and went to prepare medicine for him, for he would soon wake up and ask for food. But he couldn't stand it and came into the room and said he was an ungrateful boy. Let him open his eyes immediately. And if he dies, who will feed and water him? He needs to get up and get to work. But Su wouldn't wake up and lay down all the time. He had to take matters into his own hands and even fed himself with a spoon. The master used his powers to try to bring him to his senses. In the morning, he asked him to get up at once. And if he fell back, he'd go after him in a flash. He'd find him in hell. The master could not cope with his anger and kept saying that he would have another 300,000 years of labor in hell. But suddenly Su opened his eyes and turned to the master. The master asked him what was wrong. The boy replied that he thought their destinies would cross in hell. But the master immediately slammed his hand into his head. Su said he was in pain and why was he hitting him? The master replied to shut his mouth, and if he talks nonsense, he will give him another one. Su asked, "Is he alive?" The master asked, "How does he think he can die without his permission? Let him not even think about it. Of course he doesn't." Su was thinking at this time, why did his master look pale? Was he really scared for him? No, it couldn't be. The master immediately told him to stand up. Su replied, "He is in a critical condition. He is not feeling his body at all right now. At least let him try to show a little pity once in a while." The master looked at him and said that he seemed to miss his fist. "Let him stand up immediately." Su immediately realized that he was definitely not joking with his fist. Su in his heart immediately felt his strength returning to him. Maybe it was the result of endless violence and fear. Su tried to slowly stand up and shouted his body as his body would creak. He realized that his strength was slowly arriving, but his body still hurt, even too much. But master handed him a plate and told him to drink this. Su asked the master, "Surely this is not poison?" The master asked with surprise, "What kind of poison?" "Medicine," he tells him. "You have to drink it immediately or it will get cold." Su asked, "Is he giving him medicine?" "No way, could it be poison after all?" The master looked at him menacingly and replied that he was clearly hungry for his fist as he could see. Well, since he was asking for it. But Su replied that he had misunderstood him. But Su had to do it. He took a plate and started to drink. But after drinking, he felt very sick, and the taste of the medicine was terrible. But suddenly Su found something and asked what it was. He'd seen it somewhere. It looks like the scales of a white snake. The master replied that he was the one who could pronounce the name with such ease. Let him be thankful that the carcass of the white snake was lying right next to him. He had already told him that there was no antidote for the white snake's venom. What was he listening to then? Su asked. Then what did he just drink? The master replied, to get the white snake venom out of the body in the first few minutes after the bite, one should drink the blood of that white snake. This will stop the poison from spreading in the body. And then you need to make an infusion of scales and heart of this white snake and drink it for 3 days and 3 nights. In half a month, you need to follow a diet, and only in this way you can remove the poison from the body. And if he was even 7 minutes late, he'd already be on the other side of the world. But suddenly Su was surprised to hear a lot of bad words. It's better to keep quiet today, or he'll kill him for sure. Su turned to him and said that he wanted to ask him, the girl who was next to him, what's wrong with her? Su realized that he was guilty of child abuse. How dare he talk about free time when he was dying of overwork? The master asked him with surprise, girl? What is he talking about? He doesn't know at all. Su replied that the girl must have been there by his side. She was wearing his clothes. What became of her? The master replied, who knows? The tramps must have dragged her along. Su asked, vagrants? It must have been the guards who came up. Was she not injured? The master asked if he was already hormonal. I can see why he's been so cheerful lately. Is that why he ran into the white snake? He wanted to get that girl's attention? Sue replied that he didn't, but master told him to calm down. And so the last time he saw her, she was safe and sound. There were still people there who called her mistress. Sue realized that meant Rin was fine. The last thing he heard seemed to be her squealing. Or was he just imagining it? Then he wouldn't ask master about Rin again, or he'd start saying strange things again. Sue asked, "Where is the white snake carcass located? Is it there?" The master replied that of course he dragged it here. Is he a fool or what? The master replied that he would split it up and sell it. Such a thing is not seen in the market every day, so he would be able to make a good profit. He would also get a good sum for the heart, but he couldn't because of him. Sue told the master that he hoped he hadn't cut the belly open yet. The master asked why. Whoever killed it belongs to him, so he might not even think of claiming it. Sue replied that that's not what he's talking about right now. There is a person in the belly of the white snake, master asked. Are they all his acquaintances? Sue asked with surprise. They? But at this time, Rin was in a lot of pain, and looking at the fish realized that she couldn't take it anymore. She remembered everything and said she didn't want it all to happen again. But what can she do? She doesn't know how to do anything. But she remembered B's words that she had told him to find this skill and develop it, and it would surely become her strength in the future. Rin realized that B had done exactly that. She fought despite her fear, tried despite her disgust. She had nurtured that strength in herself. Rin thought, what was she going to do? She wouldn't just cry anymore. She decided to become smarter and stronger. But morning Rin came to her father and said something. The head was surprised and asked her what she had just said. Rin replied that she wanted to learn how to fight. Let him send her to a place where she can become strong. The head asked, where can he send her? He's glad she wants to be strong. Maybe he can just help her. He'll solve all her problems for her. Why would she want to go anywhere? The head asked, does his lovely daughter want to learn how to fight? In other words, does she want to kick someone's ass? Who dared to hurt her? Let her tell him. But Namgung thought that he seemed to have misunderstood him. The head yelled that he'd make a chop out of him. Let her just tell me who he is. How dare he hurt his sweet daughter? Rin said it was her. The head was greatly surprised and asked who. The girl replied that she was unable to fend for herself. And so other people died instead of her, while she just stood there like a pillar. It didn't even seem to occur to her that she should do anything. She just stood there trembling with fear. She couldn't stand to look at her helpless self anymore. But suddenly the head looked at her hands and said that her daughter's hands were covered in blood. Tell them to get a doctor here immediately. The head said that he understands that she is very upset about what happened, and becoming strong is a very good thing. But she doesn't have to go anywhere for that. Let her stay by his side always. He'll give her all his knowledge of martial arts. She'll be his strongest in no time. And if she doesn't want to learn from Daddy, he can bring in good teachers. He'll teach her a lot, so she doesn't have to go anywhere. But Rin answered her father that she didn't want to. The head was very frightened by these words, and he didn't even know what to say to her. Namgung saw that the gentleman had been silent for an hour, and he hoped he was okay. The head asked him if he knew what the phrase "don't want" means. The head said it was the first time her daughter had ever said something like that to him. Also, she always called him Daddy. Father? Who's that? She always called him Daddy. Namgung realized that his master was not okay after all. He said that children first call Daddy Daddy when they want something that only a father can give, not Daddy. The head was surprised and asked what he thought it was. Namgung replied that it was only respect. Children never grow up in the eyes of their parents, but every year they wait more and more for them to start seeing them as an adult. They expect their parents to believe in them, and despite the harshness of the conditions, to bless their decisions to live independently. Rin realized that if she wasn't constantly being coddled by someone, she couldn't become stronger. Only a father, not a dad, could show respect to his child. She begs him to send her to a place where she can become strong, where she can overcome all the bitterness of life. The head said that if a child wants to set foot on the warpath, how can his father calmly bless his path? But he himself, after all, knows how restless things are around him. Namgung replied that he thought the father should do everything to make the child a phoenix instead of a rooster. Namgung replied that he thought the father should do everything to make the child a phoenix instead of a rooster. A father must help a child to stand firm in their less than cruel world. He thinks that it is not only the parents who bring up the child, but sometimes the children themselves bring up their parents. Let him see his daughter has grown up and turned them from daddy to father. It is certainly a double feeling. He is happy and sad at the same time. He feels that he has grown very old. The head said that with his head he understands, but when he imagines it's about Rin, Namgung replied that he understands them. It is not without reason that the people say that parents, when seeing their child off on a long journey, put on them shoes made from their heart. The head asked if he could say, "Do his children call him dad or father?" Namgung replied that his twins had been calling him father since some time. They told him that they were adults now and wanted him to give them real swords. The head asked what he had given them. Namgung replied that no. He promised that he would only give them real swords when he couldn't get them both up at the same time. The head said he didn't think he was going to give them swords for another 50 years. His words contradicted what he had recently advised him. Suddenly, the guard came in and said he had news about Unbi. According to the note brought by the pigeon, we found Unbi's place. It's not far from where it happened. An hour ago, the guards were sitting in the bushes saying they think they're here. Certainly not to say he's sure they've come to the right place. Maybe it's not here. They said the old man shut himself away from people, so the house must be in the middle of nowhere. But the second guard replied that no, it was probably here. The white snake tracks led here. Though maybe he's right, this is the only house here in the neighborhood. And they need to get closer. Then they'll know for sure. But the commander said no. They were told not to get close under any circumstances. They need to send a pigeon, leave a couple of men here and come back before the next order. But suddenly someone came up from behind with a shovel and threw it right in front of them. And the guards realized that they had been spotted. The master put them to work. The guards asked each other why they were doing all this. No, of course he realizes that someone has to do it. The second guard said that if he understood, let him keep quiet and dig a hole. It's worse over there. That's definitely not where he wants to go. Namgung said that it says that master went on to take care of Yunbi, and their guys are now bearing the corpses disemboweled from the belly of the white snake. As soon as they're done, they'll come back with Wang Il's body. The head replied that it was a good thing, and since the old man let them take care of their man's corpse, it meant that Yunbi was fine. And on top of that, it can be noted that this old man is a well-mannered man, since he shows compassion for other people's losses. The master asked the student what was that look on his face. There were some loiterers in the neighborhood just now, so he told them to take care of it. He could worry no more. Sue said that he's not feeling well right now, so he really admires the master in his heart. He really admires him in his heart because it's not like him. The master showed them everything and told them everything in detail, and when the tools break, he asked them to have them pay the cost 3 times over. The master told the apprentice to study while he lives, and he accepts gratitude and finances. He's nothing but trouble. When these idlers are gone, he'll make a quick trip to the village. Let him stay here, lie down and rest until he returns. Sue was surprised and asked why to the village. Maybe to sell the white snake? The master replied that on top of that, he needed to take a vacation from his employer for him. He won't be able to work for a while. He'll demand a month at the forge and half a month at the others. And Chongyangru will say he won't work there anymore. Sue asked with a surprised voice, "He won't work at Chongyangru anymore?" The master asked, "What did he think he could hobble around moving his ass forever? He will soon start to show male features, so he won't be able to work anyway. But as soon as he recovers, his body will immediately become very muscular, and his arms and legs will be twice as thick." At this time, Sue was angry because the sun had set and the master was still gone. But the longer he was gone, the better. It was scary to imagine how he would be bullied by him. Will he try to relax and sleep? He should enjoy his freedom while he has the opportunity. But suddenly he felt someone coming this way, and there were even several of them. But someone knocked at the door and apologized for disturbing him. He asked, "Yunbi and the master are here?" Sue immediately recognized from the voice that it was Rin, her old father and head of security. But in this form, he can't show himself to them. Bai tried to get up but immediately fell to the ground, because everything hurt. Rin heard it and said it was Unbi's voice. Rin asked Bi if she was okay, but Bi answered her to make them stop. The girl was greatly surprised and didn't understand why she was acting like that. Bi told them not to open the door, okay? She said her wounds made her a little naked. She doesn't want them to see her like this. The head asked, besides her, is there no one else here right now? How could a wounded girl lie alone at home in such a wilderness? They can guard until her master returns. B replied that she thanked them, but unfortunately he didn't know exactly when her master would return. B said that it was quite cold here, and she didn't think they should stay long. Rin replied that they wanted to deliver something, so they were in a hurry, but apparently they didn't get here in time. Maybe they'll stop by some other time. Sue realized that was a bad option, and he doesn't want that. Sue told him to wait because it was very difficult to get here, and her master didn't like visitors. Maybe they'll tell her, and she'll tell him. The head replied that they wanted to thank her and bring her healing plants and other gifts. There is also a doctor with them. He knows firsthand that not everyone can heal a warrior. That's why they have a very famous doctor with them. They wanted him to examine her if her master would allow it, but unfortunately he's not here. Maybe they should leave her presence here. Really, they hope there are no burglars here. Sue thought, what kind of gifts? They must be medicinal herbs or money. But why give something like that to the master? And suddenly B said that she thought she could answer them herself, and she's sure master wouldn't allow strangers to examine her. But still, she is very grateful to them. Sue realized that there was no way he would let that happen. Any doctor would easily recognize that he was a boy. If word got out, Chonghyang-ru would be in trouble, so master would definitely refuse. Bai said, what in refusing all their gifts, she thinks it would be impolite. So if it's not too much trouble, could they leave them at Chonghyang-ru? She'll take their words to master first, and then she'll take them from there herself. The head says, okay, they'll do that. He hears her voice lighten as soon as she heard about the presents. Good thing he had them ready. And he was told that she was very badly wounded protecting his daughter. And is she badly wounded? Is there anything she needs to get her health back? Bai replied that he didn't. She thinks that in a month she will recover and will be able to see them. The head said that on the head he thought she didn't have a deep wound. It turns out that things are worse. B replied that it was. But that's okay, it will recover in time. Rin was greatly surprised at this time and said, a month. The head replied that they were planning to leave Chonghyang-ra in half a month. It seems that this is their last meeting. B asked, are they leaving? Rin too? Sue realized that of course he had assumed that they would leave at some point. But just like that? Without even seeing a face? The head said yes, so did she. Maybe she'll let Rin enter her place to say goodbye. She doesn't know how to fight and won't hurt her. Especially since they're both girls, they'll back off. Sue realized that was the thing. They weren't both girls. What should he do? Should he tell her to close her eyes? But no, that would look weird. Especially since he had a feeling that she would definitely see everything. B told Rin that unfortunately she couldn't let her in right now. But if it's not too much trouble, could she come closer to the window? Rin got excited and immediately ran to the window. B said she could see her. And yes, very clearly. Rin asked, does she see her? B replied that to be honest, she could see her shadow. And then she too went to the window and said that now she was around too. Rin said she can see, and her voice she can hear well. B replied to forgive her. They came to visit her, and she can't even let them in. Rin said no, she's glad she can at least hear her. Especially on the contrary, she's the one who wants to apologize to her. If it wasn't for her, they wouldn't have met. She wouldn't have been so hurt. B told her to take those words back. It was her choice. Why is she apologizing to her? B said that their agreement was with her, a walk on the mountain, and the snake fight. It all happened on his initiative, so all the joys are the result of her decision. She has no idea how happy she was to see her, and she doesn't want her to take those happy memories away from her. Rin said okay, and she wouldn't take it away. She was very happy to see her too, yes. She was very happy the whole time. The head at this time was saying that the two girls seemed to be socializing, and their conversation was giving him goosebumps. And to be a good father, he has to overcome all this. Rin said that after her parents, Yun-bi, she is the most important person in her life, and thank her so much for everything. B said she had never heard such words spoken to her in her life. For her, she is the most beloved person alive. The head heard everything and thought, can girls really say such things to each other? And what was Namgung looking at like that? Namgung saw the things and realized that that old man master was of small build. But no, he couldn't wear such clothes. But how come there's children's men's clothes? Maybe she purposely changes into men's clothes when she walks around the mountain. She gave their mistress similar clothes. Sue was thinking at this time, what's with the children's menswear? What are they talking about right now? Suddenly, the head said that if he wasn't wrong, then it meant that a boy lived here. Sue at this moment was greatly startled by the fact that did the master really wash his clothes? After all, he never does laundry. Why would he suddenly think that now that's how he wanted to set him up? Rin asked B if she was okay. Is she sick a lot? B replied that she was fine. Let her wait for a minute. B turned to the others and said that they seemed to have questions for her. The head replied that they seemed to be talking too loudly. Then he would ask her directly. The head asked if they had a boy living at home. Suddenly B said that yes, master has an apprentice. A boy. But Rin in a moment remembered B's words as she said that only the lazy master lived at her house. At that time, Cheon arrived on the other side of the island by boat, but Sik immediately recognized him, and even their gazes crossed. Cheon smiled after seeing a familiar face, and stepping out of the deck stepped right into the dirt. Cheon looked at it and said that it turned out to be nothing special. He thought if he could come back here one more time, something incredible would happen to him. But at least what he was hoping for. The road is still a road, dirty and endless. And maybe he could go to the other side, see if it was cleaner. Sik at this time was already on the boat on his way. But suddenly the boy asked if he was not feeling well. It was very dangerous to stand here like this, and it would be better if he went inside and slept. Sik said he'd do that right away. The boy said it was very dangerous to look at the sea on such a dark night. He could fall in. And the water is so unpredictable. Sik asked him why he was standing here. The guy replied that he might not worry about him. He's got this. The guy said it's a pebble from his house. When he lets his guard down, he keeps looking at it. That's when his mental clarity returns. And he keeps telling himself that someone is waiting for him, and he has to get back any way he can. Sik said he has a talisman like that too. And this stone from the fence of his house, he wanted to throw it away at first, but then he changed his mind. The guy replied that he understood him. He did. There's no getting rid of it. He himself has not been able to throw away this stone for 40 years.